Hello and what's up, RSE Pokemon Challenges fam? How you guys doing? We are back, episode 3 of the Wattson Minimum Battles series. I want to give a massive thank you to you guys just right off the rip. We hit 1,000 subs. Thank you very much for that. We are kind of moving now. And of course, as we get back into this Wattson action, we've got 10 new challengers today ready to go. And we're going to see how many we can actually get through this section. This episode does include an awful lot of member picks, which obviously get OP moves and will get extra strategies to try to get through. Some of them will still be kind of tough though. I'm especially looking at our very first Pokemon today, Butterfree. I'm not sure how this one's gonna go when we actually get to Wattson, because we're going to have some serious type weaknesses there. I think we can get through Brawly just fine though, so assuming that is the case, I think we've got chances as we go through. Then we've got Arbok, we've got Pikachu and Pichu, which are also going to be kind of interesting in the electric gym. We've got Lanturn, we've got Mightyena, we've got Linoone, and then we've got the entire Lotad line. I'm just going to place my early predictions here that we're going to have a brutal session. Arbok, I see no way that that Pokemon gets through Wattson. Like, what is it supposed to do when it gets to the Magneton? I honestly have no idea. The Lanturn and the entire Lotad line have the problem of being neutrally affected by electric moves, as well as probably not having the best moveset against Wattson. So I think those Pokemon are also going to have a tough time in this section. I would expect Lanturn to do a little bit better than maybe the Lotad line, because I think it's going to have moves that are actually neutrally effective against the Magneton. The Lotad line might just be wrecked. I'm honestly not sure. And then we've got Mightyena. It is our dark type in this episode. I believe running, stab, bite. Maybe there's some situation where some flinch chances can come in, but this is going to very likely be our first Pokemon that cannot go to Brawly, because it's just going to take way too much damage there. At least that's my prediction. So Brawly is not required to beat in this section of the game. We can go back and fight him later when we have more levels and maybe moves that match up better against him. But without the XP from Brawly, will a Pokemon be able to get through Wattson and rival number 2, the rival north of Slateport? I'm honestly not sure if it's going to work or not. We should fortunately not have too many type weaknesses outside of the Brawly fight, but we are going to be going up against the Combuskin team, so that could be the end of our Mightyena. We're just gonna have to see. And finally, when we get to Lotad, Lombre, and Ludicolo, at least they're only going to take neutral damage from the attacks of the rival. There's not going to be anything super effective against us there, other than, I guess, Wingull with Wing Attack. But hopefully we should be able to find a way through. We're just gonna have to test this and find out. We're gonna lead off with our Butterfree as a member pick from member Lavendar Regards. So let's get straight into this and see how it goes. So first things first, we are coming in with Lavendar Regards Freedom, the Butterfree, and we finished the last section with Swagger, Psychic, Substitute, and Giga Drain as our moveset. Now, of course, this substitute could be useful. We've seen Swagger strats already in this series. Psychic should be able to get us through Brawly. So it's on that basis that I'm just going to try to move on in the game with the setup that we currently have going. Now, we are going to gain some level up moves here. At level 15, we'll get Sleep Powder, which I think could be super important. We might even forget Swagger for that. We could always relearn Swagger from the move tutor. Remember, this is a member pick Pokemon, so we got that advantage. And Sleep Powder strats could be super useful here. I think we'll also get to Whirlwind in this section, though I'm not sure that's going to hit the moveset. I'm not sure it's going to be useful enough. Supersonic could be interesting, but I think at that point we would just go Swagger. Outside of that, there are really no TMs to learn in this section, so we're just going to have to see if we can make a moveset that is good enough to get through, but I'm definitely going to Brawly first. And sure enough, with no issues, we make it here to Brawly. I think this is the best way to go, given that we do have the 4 times resistance to fighting type moves. Let's see if Psychic will be enough to get the job done. So Brawly attempt number 1 against the first Machop. I go Psychic, doing about half. It goes Karate Chop with a crit, but we still survive just fine. After that, we get to level 12 right here. Now for the Meditite, I'm just going to spam away with Giga Drain in order to get HP back, since this Pokemon can't really do anything against me. Once I'm to max HP, now I will go for Psychic, just trying to deal damage and knock this Pokemon out. We actually get it in a Super Potion range, which is kind of nice. It doesn't look like this is going to be like a one-hit KO due to the fact that we do have a light screen up. Still, we get the second super potion from this Pokemon, and now we will be able to take it down. We've still got a couple PP and Psychic for the final MkII, so let's just see how this goes. I'm going to Swagger this Pokemon, hoping that it hits itself in confusion. Instead, it goes Bulk Up. That's fine. I'm going to Substitute after that so that I can avoid damage. We get a nice first hit with the Psychic. It goes Vital Throw here and then uses the Citrus Berry. The problem is we're about to run out of Psychic PP, so we're going to have to go back to Swagger here. We get hit by the Vital Throw and we go down. I'm going to try this one again. It might be worth swaggering against the Meditite in order to hopefully get it to hit itself in confusion, just because it looks like we might not be doing quite enough damage here with the Psychics, given that this is a fighting Psychic type Pokemon. So here I'm going Swagger right away. Then I am going for the Giga Drains in order to just deal damage. We'll see if we can manage to take this Pokemon out. He super potions after hitting himself in confusion once. That's kind of nice. And now we can go back into trying to knock this Pokemon out. Once again, he super potions, but I think that's fine. We've used all the Giga Drain PP, but we should be able to take this Pokemon out. In fact, we get through to the MkII with 3 PP in Psychic this time. So I'm just going to go Psychic. He goes Vital Throw. It does nothing. He uses the Citrus Berry, and then I'm going to just try to knock this Pokemon out from here. And sure enough, we get the victory on the second attempt. So not too bad to get through that. We level up. We could learn Poison Powder. I'm going to skip this move. I don't think it's actually that useful for us. What we are hoping to learn is Sleep Powder later on. That will be our strategy, I think, for getting through Wattson, is to hope that we're fast enough to put things to sleep and then knock them out from there. I'm honestly not sure if this is going to work out or not. We're just going to have to test a bunch. But for now, we're ready to move on to the Team Aqua storyline plus the rival. Let's see if we can get through those fights nice and easy, and then maybe have a chance when we get to the gym. And here, sure enough, with no issues, we're going to make it to Rival May, and we've gotten access to Sleep Powder in time. I think we've got reasonable chances here. My biggest concern is about our speed. I'm just not sure we're going to outspeed everything. I'm going to throw on Quick Claw for the rest of this section, I think, as my primary strategy to get through, because that might be what we need to actually beat some of these opponents. I think we'll be fine against the rival, but let's find out. So May leads off with her Wingull. I'm going to put this Pokemon to sleep, and then assuming it stays asleep, I'm going to set up a substitute. We're currently in a speed tie with this Pokemon, but now I think we just Giga Drain. It does pretty decent damage, and then it tries to go Supersonic against me, which is perfectly fine, and then Growl can't hit me behind a substitute. So I take that one down nice and easy, getting to level 17. Out comes the Combuskin. I go Sleep Powder right here to put it to sleep, and since it is a fighting type, we'll just go Psychic, and this is going to be a 2-hit KO, getting us through nice and easy. Still with our substitute as Lombre comes out, and now we can just go Psychic, I think. This looks to be maybe a 3 or 4-hit KO. I'll even Giga Drain just to try to guarantee that I get the 4-hitter, and we ultimately take that down with no issues. We beat May on full health at the end because of the fact that we got access to Mega Drain with the substitute, and now we can simply skip Supersonic as we get to level 18, make our way up north, and we're gonna try our hand at Wattson. And sure enough, with no issues, we do make it to Wattson. Now, because we are in the medium fast level up group, we're only getting here at level 20. We're just about to level up to level 21. We could also get a rare candy to level up, though it would be pretty sad to level up at this point when we're so close to actually being able to just normally level up. The big issue that I see here, though, is likely going to be our speed and the fact that Butterfree just doesn't hit very hard. We're gonna have to see if it's enough to actually get us through here. We might need a Quick Claw activation on the first Voltorb in order to get Sleep Powder to put it to sleep, set up our substitute, and go from there. We're just gonna have to see if this works or not. So round 1 against Wattson, we're definitely significantly slower than this first Pokemon. It self-destructs, taking me to low health. We level up right here, and we are faster than Electrike, but it knows Quick Attack. Still, we managed to get it to sleep. We can go for some Giga Drain action here in order to get enough HP back in order to substitute. He goes for the Super Potion, and that's perfect. That's just going to let me heal up on this Pokemon to be a little bit more survivable going forward. We get a Shockwave right here. I'm I'm going to try to put this one back to sleep. We get it. We can set up our substitute once again. And now just once again, Giga Drain for HP. We take the Electrike down. That brings out Manectric next. He doesn't send out the Magneton. Very interesting. We're going to Sleep Powder this Pokemon. We get a Quick Claw activation, which is just brilliant. Now we can go Psychic. We're hoping for some special drops here. We force the Citrus Berry, but we can see we're really just not dealing a lot of damage. And on top of that, we are slower. He does Super Potion here, so we get to put the Manectric back to sleep, though. If it stays asleep enough turns, we might have a chance. He quick attacks, not breaking my substitute. We get a nice crit there, but then we couldn't hit the last turn that we needed, so we go down. We're going to have to try this one again. Hopefully not getting that self-destruct at the start of this and getting the Quick Claw. Let's see what happens. This time we get Spark from the Voltorb instead, which is basically fine. And then once again, I'm going to go Giga Drain here. Unfortunately, it wakes up immediately, so we're in kind of bad shape here. It looks like a 3 or 4 hit KO on that Voltorb with the Giga Drain. Let's see what Psychic does instead here. Psychic plus a Giga Drain looks like it will become a 3 hit KO. We actually get a Super Potion there, and Voltorb does wake up, but we'll still knock this Pokemon out. Getting back to the Electrike, the Pokemon that is actually slower than us. We can put it to sleep, set up Substitute again, and then I'm going back into the Giga Drains in order to gain some HP back, hoping this opponent stays asleep, giving us the chances that we need. Here, once again, he sends out Manectric third. He howls at me this time. Then he goes Shockwave and breaks my substitute. We finally land the second Sleep Powder on this Pokemon and then Substitute. I will go for a Giga Drain just to get some HP back. He swaps to the Magneton. Very interesting. We're in a speed tie with this Pokemon. We get it to sleep. And now the question is, can we deal enough damage to take this Pokemon down? We get a nice crit there, and we get him to very low health, but he's gonna Super Potion from that point, and we don't have any stat drops, so it looks like we're not going to be able to deal enough damage to actually take this Pokemon down. We do get to put it back to sleep, and we will once again substitute in order to be more survivable. The entire problem here seems to be damage output, though, because we have run out of damage dealing PP. So at this point, we would have no choice but to use up our remaining PP and go into struggle, which I'm pretty sure is not going to be good enough to get the victory. It makes the argument for these swagger strats. The question is, what move do we forget? I guess we would have to forget Giga Drain in order to make this work. Giga Drain was added to the moveset earlier just to beat Roxanne, but now I think we probably need to go swagger and hope for some good luck with it to get a win. Basically, with this setup, our goal will be to put the opponent to sleep, set up a substitute, and then swagger the opponent in front of us so that they have at least a chance to hit themselves on the turn that they wake up, and then save our precious Psychic PP for actually getting KOs on opponents. Let's see if this can work or if it turns out to just be a complete dead end. If this doesn't work, I think the only logical play will be something like a Hidden Power Ground in order to try to get us through, because that would honestly be the only thing that I think would save this Butterfree. And even then, it might not be great. We'll just have to see. But let's test with some legit moves first. And yeah, after a few attempts of this just really doesn't work. I mean, we would need so much luck of the opponents hitting themselves because we're weak against electric type moves that this really just doesn't seem to be a possible strategy. So my next play is to go for Hidden Power Ground, and the logic for this is pretty simple. It would have been a move that would have been effective against Roxanne, so at least we would have been able to do some decent damage there, though we might have ended up going Psychic against the Geodudes. At the end of the day, combining that with the substitute swagger strats, I think we could eventually get that one to go. And technically, we could have had Giga Drain there and not Psychic, and then picked up Psychic when we actually get to the Mauville section from the game corner. So I'm gonna treat this as legit to have Psychic and Hidden Power Ground on our moveset. Now, Hidden Power Ground requires us to set our IVs in Special Attack and Special Defense as 30, but everything else can stay 31 max IVs. So let's just see how this goes against Wattson with this setup. So first, let's just confirm that we've got Hidden Power Ground in. It is super effective here, and we get a 2-shot on the first Voltorb, so that's perfect. That will bring out Electrike. We're going to put it to sleep. We're going to set up the substitute after that, and then we're going for the Hidden Power Ground here. And this is again going to be a 2-hit KO to get through this Pokemon. We will once again put it to sleep and try to set up a substitute. When it breaks our substitute, we have to avoid this Pokemon waking up though. That is a massive problem, and we get knocked out right there. So we're going to have to try this again. This is all really going to come down to Quick Claw luck, especially here against the first Voltorb, because when we get hit by Spark or Shockwave, we just take massive damage here. But we do once again take that Pokemon down. Back to the Electrike, we put it to sleep, and we're going back to our Hidden Power here. And I guess we'll just Psychic that Pokemon down. That will bring out the Manectric. It goes Shockwave. We survive thanks to the substitute and put this Pokemon to sleep. We can't set up any more substitutes though. I'm going Hidden Power, and it looks like a 3-hit KO on the Manectric. So we're going to need better luck than that with Sleep. So let's try this again. One thing that I will say is that Gen 3 Sleep is definitely worse than even in Gen 1 and Gen 2 because it's shorter and opponents wake up faster. And that does affect this strategy quite a bit because we often get the case where the opponent immediately wakes up or wakes up like after only 1 turn. And that kind of destroys our Butterfree here. I still think Quick Claw is the only viable play for our held item because we really do want to outspeed against this Voltorb if we can manage it. And then we just need really good sleep luck from there. We would actually like in this situation if he swaps to the Magneton for us so that we get 4 times super effective damage. Here, Manectric comes out, it goes Shockwave. We get it to sleep though. I'm gonna set up a new substitute because we absolutely need it. Manectric stays asleep. We hit the Hidden Power. We hit again. He uses the Citrus Berry. We kind of want a critical hit here as he quick attacks me, and we get it. So we do manage to get through to the Magneton with the substitute up, and we've leveled up so we actually outspeed here. We're going Sleep Powder. Magneton is asleep. Let's go Hidden Power Ground, and we get the critical hit 1-shot. So it took quite a few attempts there at Wattson, but at the end of the day, we can get it to go with Hidden Power Ground with this Butterfree, but it's only because we've got the substitute and the Sleep Powder to go with it. I still think we would have wanted Psychic on our moveset earlier on the basis that we would have used that to take down Brawly, but I think you could have redone the route if you started with Giga Drain and Hidden Power Ground, since Hidden Power Ground would also be super effective against Combusken. I think we could have found the strategy to get through there. We wouldn't have had anything great against the Lombre, but I mean, Giga Drain is neutrally effective there, so we would have at least been able to get HP back and knock that Pokemon out, I think. Then we could have come up north, gotten access to Psychic, gone back down to Brawly, and then come up and done exactly this, just getting rid of the Giga Drain. Obviously, Giga Drain's not a great move for the next couple gyms, so I think this is legit, but definitely yell at me in the comments down below. Still, I think this is the only way that I can think of to actually get a Butterfree through this section. And it's on that basis that I'm going to leave this as our final strategy that gets Butterfree through as a channel member pick. So with that, let me give a massive thank you to Lavendar Regards, already supporting for over 5 months, going on 6 months already for this Butterfree. And we did manage to find a way to overcharge Wattson's system with this Butterfree. I think we've got the tools now, Lavendar, that we can go to Flannery. If we can just manage to outspeed, it might require some Quick Claws, but then we can set up a substitute, put things to sleep, Hidden Power Ground in order to deal damage. We can have the Psychic as a backup. I think it will ultimately work out. We're going to have to test it and see, of course, but that will be the strategy going forward. Let's see if it works or not. But with Butterfree now done, let's get to a proper challenger for today. I am going to look at the Arbok. Since it's a poison type, I think it's going to do really bad, but let's find out. So here we are, it is Arbok time. We finished the last section with Wrap, Leer, Poison Sting, and Bite. And since we've just seen that a medium slow level up Pokemon gets to level 20 by the time that we get to Wattson, that will mean that we get to Glare in this section. That will be our only level up move. And then we basically have nothing going on here in terms of like TMs that we can learn or anything. So we're basically stuck with this move set. Since this is a legit challenger, it doesn't get the advantage of member picks being able to pick up new moves, I'm honestly concerned. Bite, obviously, as our strongest move, isn't going to do anything when we get to Brawly. And then we're going to be in this situation of not really being set up well against Wattson, especially against his Magneton. I just don't see how we get through that Pokemon. We'll test everything and see, but obviously poison strats don't exist there. I don't think Wrap will do anything. Bite won't do anything. We might be cooked. Still, we'll do everything that we can to actually get through this. Let's test and see how far we can actually get. At least against Brawly, we do resist the fighting type, so that gives us some possibility of getting through that, and maybe that will turn out to just give us enough levels to be enough. Swagger might be required here in order to actually get a victory, though. I'm going to be pretty liberal about adding that move on just because we don't have a whole lot else to really go for. Some people have even called in the comments to ban Swagger because it's such a generic strategy, but I think we would be punting on way too many Pokemon at that point. And while, yes, technically we could go double team with everything as well when we get to Mauville, I don't think that that's quite as legit. Number one, because it's accuracy strats, but number two, because everything in this section has moves to bypass accuracy checks anyway. So it's not like we would be getting some crazy advantage by throwing on double team here. Plus, nobody likes to watch people sit here and spam double team. Spamming the Swagger is kind of similar in some ways, but at least it revolves around your opponent hitting themselves in confusion, which actually causes damage, as opposed to double team just trying to get the misses. Feel free to debate that more in the comment section down below, but I'm basically banning double team in this just because I don't want to sit here and just reset for misses only. Whereas Swagger, like I said, it doesn't just cause the opponent to not hit you, it causes the opponent to damage themselves, which I think is a little bit more of a legit strategy. Still, I'm not sure if it's going to be enough for anything in this section, which is why I feel really nervous going through this. Now, I'm not even sure if we can go take on Brawly immediately because of the fact that we don't really have any strong damage dealing moves. So I'm going to instead make my way to Slateport first. Let's do the whole Team Aqua storyline and fight the randos before the rival. And let's just see if we can manage to get through with that or not. And it's worth noting that just these Plusle and Minun trainers up here have been causing me a lot of problems. Obviously, they have Growl. I've been trying to poison them and wrap them and then bite them. It's only in this second fight that we're actually faster than this Pokemon, of course, before being paralyzed. But even then, we can see we're taking a lot of damage here and losing a lot of turns to paralysis. And this could be an omen of how we're going to do against Wattson. I've been saving, of course, and taking them on multiple times, but resets are starting to pile up a little bit here. Obviously, Bite is our strongest move, but we just have the issue of being paralyzed. And it's not like the bites do that much with these Pokemon have healing as well. We managed to get through this time, though, so we are able to move on. But we've gotten to level 15 at this point, so I'm going to see if I can beat Brawly now, knowing that Bite is basically useless, but it might be good if we manage to poison his Pokemon and then use that as our way to kind of stall him out and make him take extra poison damage. Otherwise, we're going for Swagger strats here, but let's just see how this goes. So Brawly attempt number one. Of course, we get to Intimidate Machop, which is kind of nice. And I'm trying to get poison here just so that I can get some chip damage. It goes Seismic Toss against me. At this point, I'm biting, not really to deal damage so much as for the chance to get flinches and more chip. He does a Super Potion on this Pokemon. And honestly, we might want an Oran Berry here. We just take too much damage from the first Machop. So I'm going to give that Oran Berry just to have a way to heal a little bit. We also have the potential for Thief strats to steal citrus berries, etc. from our opponents, which could be a strategy for actually getting through some of these fights. We might replace like Wrap with that move. That could be interesting to try, but I'm going to try with my moveset as is a few times before I go to that. And sure enough, we just seem to be taking too much damage here in order to get through this. So before I go Swagger, I'm going to try the rival once just to see. Obviously, nothing there resists any of our moves. Maybe we can find a way through. This might just be a spot where we kind of hit a wall, though. Still, let's try Rival May attempt number one right here. we can just go Poison Sting on the first Lombre. It goes Astonish, which does nothing, and we can knock that Pokemon out pretty easily here when it just goes down to poison damage. We get to level 16 as Marshtomp comes out. We are fortunately faster than this Pokemon, though we are weak against the Mud Shot. I'm going Bite because I think that's the only way through is to get a flinch, and we just basically get one shot from full health here. We're going to have to try this again. So here we can get the flinch, but it's worth noting that we did 9 damage there. That would make this a 7-hit KO on the Marshtomp if that is the range. I'm not sure if we're going to get 6 flinches in a row. We've gotten 3 flinches in a row this time, but finally we get Mud Shot and we go down. So that looks like another spot where Swagger is really the only logical play to get through. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go get the Swagger, and now we're just going to see if by swagging out with our Arbok here, we can actually manage to get a victory. So I am forgetting Leer to learn Swagger. That is my strategy. Let's see how this goes. Now, obviously, nothing changes on the Lombre. We just want to go for our Poison Stings here and knock this Pokemon out. And sure enough, we do take it down fairly easily. Now on to Marshtomp, though. We're faster, so let's Swagger, and we miss. So we simply lose. We're going to need that Marshtomp to really cooperate with us in hitting itself in confusion, which is like a 50% chance each turn that it is confused. And then maybe if we can set up all of the Swaggers there, we can just get it to deal so much damage to itself that it gives us a chance to get the victory. So I am going to Swagger the Marshtomp. It has to hit itself in confusion after that. Otherwise, yet again, it's just a reset. And honestly, I'm not sure if the XP from Brawly would change anything about this fight. We might still just be getting completely wrecked there by the Marshtomp because of our weakness to the ground type. Still, this time we get Marshtomp to hit itself. I'm going to set up a second Swagger here, hoping it hits itself again. It's like a 1 in 4 chance that it will hit itself twice, and then maybe we can find a victory. So we're just going to have to keep resetting to try. I am resetting here because I can see some possibility of actually being able to get the victory here if we get those 2 turns in a row of the Marshtomp hitting itself after we set up Swagger twice. That's the only reason to reset here, though. And then we still have to survive against the final Slugma, and we'll just have to see if that works or not. This time we get a Mud Shot miss from the Marshtomp, which only happens 5% of the time, and we Swagger again, but then it just knocks me out. This Arbok really wants Gen 1 Wrap so bad, because then it would actually have a legit strategy for getting through here when it outspeeds. It could just spam Wrap and hope to hit every single time and take the opponent down. But without something like that, it's kind of getting wrecked here from the rival. This time we finally get Marshtomp to hit itself twice in confusion, so we do get through that Pokemon. We're onto the Slugma. I'm just gonna bite this Pokemon. We get an Ember, but we had an Oranberry on, so we heal. It yawns, but that's not enough. We're finally able to get through and get to level 17 off of the rival. That tells me right there, though, that even in the absence of Wattson, what he's going to do to these poison types are really going to struggle here in this section. They just don't have anything. Maybe the Gulpin line can do just fine because they have Bullet Seed, but other poison types are just going to get completely wrecked. Now I'm just going to go get as many more levels as I can. Then I'm going to go back down to Brawly. Then we will fight Wattson. I think we can get through all these randos just fine, though. And like I said, I might replace a move like Wrap or something with Thief in order to steal a Citrus Berry off an opponent as a kind of YOLO strat for getting through, but we'll have to see if anything like that can actually work or if it just turns out to be a nightmare. Now we level up and we get to learn Glare. I'm going to initially put this on over Wrap because we could always paralyze opponents as a strategy for getting through. Swagger would allow us to do some Parafusion essentially. But now with all the randos done, I think the time has come to go back to Brawly. Let's get some more XP before we even try our hand at Wattson, because I'm not sure if we even stand a chance. We are fast, so we should be able to outspeed the Electrike and the Magneton at least. But I think we need a few more levels if we're actually going to stand any chance here. I expect the potion to come in at this point as well, at least once we manage to get through Brawly. Though honestly, we might be better off dropping our potion pre-Brawly here because we know we're still going to be below level 21 at that point. And again, I just don't think we get through Wattson. So I'm going to drop the potion here, get to level 21, beat Brawly, see how much XP I get, and at least we'll have more XP than if we used the potion after Brawly. I'm also just going to give an Orange Berry at least for this fight so that we can hopefully get a little HP back. And I might also have to, like I said, go for something like Thief. It could be for getting Poison Sting to learn Thief in order to steal a move. But for now, we need Poison Sting for at least neutral damage in this fight. So let's just see how it goes. So Brawly, round 1 here. I'm going to lead off with Swagger first to confuse the Machop, hoping it hits itself. It goes Seismic Toss instead. I will Glare to paralyze this Pokemon. That way we get the Para-Flinch going here. While Bite isn't super strong, it will allow us to flinch this Pokemon, and it's confused and it's paralyzed. So there's a lot of opportunities for it to not move. We do at least take down the Machop this time, but we're on fairly low health as we go to the Meditite. This is an easy Pokemon since we have Bite and it's neutral, and it's not like it could ever damage us anyway. So we make it to the final MkII. I'm going to confuse this Pokemon first. It hits itself, which is perfectly fine. Now I'm going to Glare, and we're just going to now start biting for flinches plus paralysis plus confusion as ways to try to get through this Pokemon. When it does move, we get completely wrecked. So let's try this one again. This time we managed to get through the first Machop on better health because it hit itself so many times in confusion. So we're going to be able to get the Meditite to actually use both super potions as well because it went for a light screen. And that's going to give us the chance to get through this Pokemon as its light screen wears off. We're to the final MkII. I'm going Swagger first. It hits itself. We're going to Glare to paralyze it. It hits itself a second time when we fail to get the Glare. Glare misses again even. Still, we can recover a little bit of HP. Vital Throw's doing a lot. We finally managed the Glare here. It snaps out of confusion. We're going to reconfuse it with Swagger, and he doesn't have any healing left behind this, which is the main point. So we're going Parafusion here, but it doesn't hit itself and it lands a Vital Throw, so we lose. Time to try this again. The key point here, though, is that even though we have resistance to the fighting type, it's not like we're getting through this fight super easily here. We're actually struggling a fair bit to get the victories, in spite of the fact that we're using pretty much every trolley strategy in the book. This time we finally get MkII to hit itself in confusion, though, when it had all of the attack boosts from the Swagger. So we finally get a victory there on Brawly. It's not pretty. We've been sitting here already for almost 40 minutes with this Pokemon just trying to get through the rival and Brawly, and now we have to go and try to get through Wattson, which, if we have any chance at all, it's entirely due to the fact that we have lots of trolley strategies. Para-Flinch Confusion here. How would you call that? Para-Flinch Fusion? That's going to be kind of our game plan going into Wattson, and we're just going to be praying for god tier luck, I think, to get this to go. We should be fast enough here to outspeed everything again, other than the Voltorb and the Manectric. We haven't gained enough levels to outspeed the Voltorb. It could be a spot where a Quick Claw makes sense on that first Pokemon, though we might just want to paralyze it, and that might be the way to go. Let's test this and see how it works. It's also possible he goes Boom turn 1 with Intimidate, which might actually be good for us compared to getting hit by a bunch of Shockwaves and Sparks, so we'll just have to see. So Wattson attempt number 1, he goes Spark, I go Glare in order to paralyze this Pokemon. Now I'm going to Bite, just trying to flinch it, and we do get self-destruct. We survive and level up here as we get to Electrike, and it just does too much damage to me with the Shockwave, and we lose. So let's try this again. Obviously, we're not happy if we don't get the paralysis or anything like that. I think we have to put on either a Quick Claw or an Orange Berry here to have any decent chances. I think Quick Claw is the actual best play. The entire logic for the Quick Claw here is that it could help us with getting the paralysis first and then flinching things. So let's just see how that goes. This time we do manage to take the Voltorb out with more HP. I'm just going to try to Bite on the Electrike as it howls. We, of course, have to get static, though. That is the problem with that strategy. Still, we take that Pokemon down, only to be slower than the Magneton when it comes out and get completely wrecked. Again, there could be an argument for going for the Cherry Berry instead in order to try to avoid the paralysis. I think if I get paralyzed though on the first Pokemon, for example, I'm just going to reset at that point. And we're just hoping for a lot of confusion luck here. Now this time we do manage to get through to the Magneton at least above half health, though once again we are paralyzed. We managed to glare with the Quick Claw and paralyze the Magneton, and now I'm going to swagger this Pokemon hard. We really want this Pokemon to hit itself in confusion as many times as possible. When it hits Shockwave, it does over 20 damage to me, so if it manages to hit, I'm just getting wrecked. It does hit itself there. We've set up all of the swaggers, and we get him to use another Super Potion on this Pokemon. It hits itself again. The problem is we're paralyzed, so we just miss a bunch of turns, and we end up knocking ourselves out. So I'm going to call this one right here. We have basically, don't get me wrong, a chance of being able to get through this, but the luck required is so insane. Cherry Berry's probably better than the Quick Claw here, but even then, we're just going to be slower at certain points, and we take so much damage from Shockwave when we get to something like, say, that Magneton, where we're taking over 20 damage per hit, so we would be getting 3 hit KO'd there, even if we got there on full health. We've got kind of the same issue on the Manectric that comes out last. It's going to be faster and be able to Shockwave. So if we got a perfect run where we Quick Claw, paralyzed everything, set up all the swaggers, they always hit themselves, we bite and flinch them, etc. Like, don't get me wrong, there's a non-zero chance that you could win this fight, but the luck is so insane that I don't think it's worth it to sit here and reset for it. It's on that basis that Arbok is out of there. So coming back to look at our results so far, of course, we add Arbok to the fail column, though Butterfree as a member pick did manage to get through. Now I think we need to look at our electric types. We're going to look at our Lanturn first, since it's a legit challenger, but then we're going to get into Pikachu and Pichu, the 2 member picks. The benefit, obviously, of the member pick Pokemon is that they can get extra moves in order to help them out, and I'll be pretty liberal about throwing on extra moves if they need them. We already saw that in the Butterfree section. It's always worth noting that when I do the member picks, the real question I'm asking every time is, what does it take to get this Pokemon through, since we know that it can't legitimately get to that point in the game. I know some people have even complained about some of the strategies that I've used, or in some cases technically not using a legal move, but it's because I really just want to see with these Pokemon what would actually get them through, even if their normal moveset turns out to be completely impossible. Still, we're going to lead off with Lanturn playing completely legitimately here before we get into those 2 member picks, and Pichu and Pikachu might really struggle, so we're going to have to see how this actually works out when we get there. First things first though, Lanturn, the kind of meh Pokemon, let's see if it gets the job done. So with our Lanturn, we are coming back with Bubble, Thunder Wave, and Supersonic. That's how we've managed to get through the Rock Sand section. We are going to learn Flail at level 13, Water Gun at level 17, but we shouldn't get to Spark at level 25 given our level up group is the slow level up group. I'm honestly not sure even when we'll get to Water Gun, since this is our technically second slow Pokemon, but I wasn't really paying attention to the levels when I was running my Arcanine. So we're just going to have to see how this goes, but I am pretty sure we get to the Water Gun in this section of the game. We do have Ice Beam strats as a YOLO strat to get through here. Obviously, we also have the Swagger strats. The big issue is that we're in the slow level up group, and we're going to take neutral damage from basically everything except being weak against grass when we go up against the rivals. So we're just going to have to see how this actually works out as we go through. If this Pokemon does somehow get through Wattson, it might match up well against the Flannery gym, so we're just gonna have to see if we can get the luck or not. But so far, water types have looked really bad, so I'm not super confident. Now, it's also worth noting that our starting move of Bubble is really weak, so we are kind of hoping to get to Flail so that at least we can deal some damage to things. I don't think we stand a chance against Brawly right away, so we're gonna take on all of the randos that are available to just get as many levels as possible before the boss fights. and there is a very strong likelihood that we just end up replacing Supersonic with Swagger right away, since it is just better than Supersonic in every possible way. Like, we got to keep in mind, against Team Aqua, there are some Carvanas here that we're just not going to have any good moves for, and they're going to be using Bite against me. So I think this is the correct play, to just get Swagger right now so that we can go ahead and use that to help us get through this fight, because otherwise I'm not sure if we can actually get the win. So here against this first Carvana, I'm going to Swagger against it, hoping it hits itself in Confusion a few times. We can also go for the Paralysis in order to reduce the chances that it gets to move. And then we can see that our Water Gun basically does nothing, but it knocks itself out, so that's perfectly fine. We get to move on to the second battle here. Against this Zubat, I think we just go Bubble, but look how pathetic Bubble is even against the Zubat here. And it's not like this Pokemon's going to do a lot of damage with things like Leech Life, but we just can't do much to our opponents, so we're getting wrecked. Still, that brings out the Carvana on the second trader. We're going to Confuse it. It hits itself in Confusion, dealing massive damage, and that does allow us to get the victory against these Team Aqua Grunts. That was kind of brutal. Now, one thing that I wasn't paying attention to before this, though, which I should have noted, is that this Pokemon does have Volt Absorb, which I wasn't thinking about its ability, but that might actually be our saving grace and get us through this gym when we get up to Wattson, because we should theoretically actually do pretty well against any electric type moves used against us, and it's not like his Pokemon have a lot of normal type moves, so maybe we can get it to go. I'm still not super confident, but I'm gonna take on these randos right here, see if I can get through. We still need one more level to get to Flail. I think Flail's gonna be required for the rival and possibly for Brawly, but then maybe we can find a way through Wattson. Let's find out. So here I'm learning Flail over Supersonic. Since we've already got Swagger, there's no reason we need both moves on the moveset. And with that, we at least have some strategies to try to get through things. We may want to do things like heal with a Paralyze heal here and try to keep our HP fairly low so we can deal more damage. I'm honestly not sure. I'm going to try to get through this other Plusle and Minun trainer with the Flail strats. Let's see how it goes. Of course, we don't like when we get attack drops, but we do like when we get our HP lowered so that we can deal more damage. And this is technically way stronger than sitting here using our kind of pathetic Bubble, though these Pokemon do go for Growl against us, which kind of wrecks the strategy, so we're going to have to try this again. Of course, our big issue here is that we don't have a great attack stat, so even against this Plusle and Minun, it's not really working with Flail, so we might just be getting wrecked. Still, we eventually managed to get that to go. We're ready to go take on either the rival or Brawly. I just don't think we deal enough damage to get through either reliably, but who knows? Maybe we can find a way through the rival by like putting on a Quick Claw and hoping to Swagger against that Grovyle. That may be our only legitimate chance here. So May attempt number one right here. Of course, we start off against the Lombre. I go for Swagger and miss. I miss Swagger again. We take a lot of damage from that Absorb. And the thing is, I forgot that we are actually going up against the Marshtomp team here, and it's on the basis that Marshtomp is only neutrally affected by water, but also has super effective moves against ground. I'm not sure Grovyle is that much harder for this Pokemon, so I think it makes sense. And here we're just getting wrecked by this first Lombre anyway. It's not like we're doing great just because we're up against the Marshtomp team. This time we get Lombre down with no damage though, so we get to level 15 right here as Marshtomp comes out. And here we have to Swagger and pray, basically, that this Pokemon hits itself. It does there. I'm going to Bubble at it now. That Bubble does nothing. And then Mudshot completely destroys us, obviously, after a Swagger. We have no chances of surviving that move. But no matter how we look at it, this is a kind of tough looking fight just from the rival here. This time we do manage to knock that first Pokemon out at least. We can Swagger again on the Marshtomp, and we're hoping to be on kind of low health and be able to Flail there with it hitting itself in Confusion. If we don't get that, we're basically getting wrecked. This time we get Marshtomp to hit itself twice. Can we get the KO? No, we cannot. Flail doesn't do enough. Bubble obviously wouldn't do enough. We need the Marshtomp to hit itself 3 times in a row unless we're on low health and Flail is actually strong enough to get the KO there. We can get on low health depending on what exactly the Lombre does. but it's going to take an awful lot of luck because then we have to be on low health when we get to Marsh Stomp, so there's just no way to survive. But granted, we're not surviving from full health anyway, at least not after the swagger, so I think this is perfectly fine. At least it's going to be luck-based, but we should eventually get the job done. Still, you're talking like a 1 in 8 chance of the Marsh Stomp hitting itself 3 times in confusion, assuming it doesn't snap out of confusion, which is the other thing that can happen here. So no matter how we do it, this just isn't going to be a very pretty range. But seeing how little we're doing with Flail here, it makes me think that if we try to go up against Brawly with his bulk ups, we're not going to deal enough damage there with our Flails either. This time we finally get the Marsh Stomp to hit itself twice, so we do knock it out with Flail because we were on fairly low health. Now we've made it to Slugma, but I'm honestly not sure how we do against this Pokemon. Like, Bubble is super effective, but then Rock Throw simply ends me. So we don't seem to be getting through the rival here. I don't think that Flail was going to one-shot at that point, so I think we have to give up on that fight. I just don't see any way that we're getting through short of like crazy confusion luck. So I don't know, maybe we just need to go swagger on that final Slugma and that's the way through. But no matter how we do it, this is just not looking pretty. We're basically relying entirely on swagger to get us through this team, and it just takes insane luck. If we're not on low health when we get to the Marsh Stomp, then we're in the situation where we actually have to get really lucky for this Pokemon to hit itself in confusion more times. But that's the only way we're going to get to the Slugma, I think, with enough HP that we can guarantee that we get the victory. But yeah, sure enough, after sitting there and resetting on that for quite a while, I can't even get back to the Slugma. Like, that was super lucky just to get to that Pokemon once on super low health. The only argument for going to Brawly is that technically we only need 2 of the Pokemon to get knocked out by these swagger strats. We should be able to bubble down eventually against that Meditite, so that Pokemon's essentially free. But we're just gonna have to see how this actually goes here, because there's nothing guaranteed in this gym, just given how frail this Lanturn is. Now, I don't think we need a Quick Claw here. I think we're better off going for something like Oranberry, for example, to heal. Let's see how this goes. So Brawly attempt number 1. I'm going straight for swagger first on the Machop. It hits itself, which is nice. I'm going to see what Bubble does from here. He seismic tosses there. We're kind of hoping he hits himself one more time and knocks himself out. He does. Now the Meditite is free, so we're just going to take advantage of that by just spamming away with Bubble here. Hopefully we get him in Super Potion ranges. Bubble has plenty of PP, so I'm sure that we'll be able to take this Pokemon down with this setup. And ideally, we want him to use both of his Super Potions right here so that we don't have to worry about those when we do get through to the MkII. Sure enough, we do get the luck for him to use both Super Potions, and we're just whittling this Pokemon down with super weak little bubbles. And that will allow us to now get to level 15 as we get to MkII. I'm going straight for Swagger here. We want it to hit itself. Instead, he uses Bulk Up. We're swaggering again. He hits Bulk Up again, and we're swaggering a 3rd time, but we miss, and Vital Throw simply ends me. It might be worth going for the Paralysis on MkII first. I'm honestly not sure, but I think our main damage output is from him hitting himself. So we just kind of have to take that. For the Machop, I think we can just go 1 swagger and hope to get it to hit itself twice, and that will be our way to get through. But for that final MkII, it's a lot more bulky, and it might be able to survive if we only do 1 swagger there. So I'm going to go Thunder Wave this time instead, and then go for the swagger, just hoping that MkII hits itself. It hits itself once there. Now we'll go for Bubble as well as it hits itself, and now it uses the Citrus Berry. It has no healing behind that, but Vital Throw still ends me. We would need it to hit itself more times than that to get through. This time we are on fairly low health, though. I'm going to see what we do with Flail against the MkII. Basically nothing. I mean, this Pokemon's just too bulky. We just couldn't deal enough damage to make that really viable. We would need much lower HP, I think, to actually have a chance. This time we managed to get to really low health, so we're just hoping MkII hits itself, and we do actually manage to win against Brawly within a few attempts. It's not the prettiest fight, but ultimately it does go, so we'll take it. We've also gained a couple levels as we go back to the rival, so maybe we can get ranges there. I'm honestly not sure. I'm going to try to go into that fight once on low health on the basis that we probably just need the right flinch luck, and then maybe the Flails can deal enough damage. So I'm going to intentionally avoid healing here as we go in, hoping that Flail strats can get me through. I'm not super confident, but I think Flail plus Swagger is our best play. So I will still Swagger first on the Lombre, hoping it hits itself. If it doesn't, we just get wrecked. But now let's see what Flail does. It's not enough to get the KO. We would need 2 hits in order to knock that Pokemon out. Still, the confusion can give us a chance, so let's just stick with this. Obviously, if we take any hits whatsoever from the Lombre, we simply go down. So this time we do get through that Pokemon. We've made it to Marshtomp. We're going to Swagger, of course, and hope it hits itself. It does. We hit Flail. We would need it to hit itself one more time in order to get through or to get a Mud Shot miss. Still, I'm going to stick with this because I just think this is my best possible way of getting through this fight. I don't think there's any value to actually healing because I think at the end of the day, this is just going to come down to Swagger luck on each of these Pokemon, getting them to hit themselves at least once, maybe twice, maybe getting a crit on the Marshtomp. And then I think once again, when we get to the final Slugma, we just need it to hit itself in order to at least give us a chance. This time we get the Marshtomp to hit itself twice. We've made it to Slugma. I'm going Swagger in order to confuse it. It hits itself. We go Flail and we finally win. That has taken a small eternity, but we are finally able to get through that. We can learn Water Gun at this point. I'll learn it over Bubble as we have gotten to level 17. And now the question is, how do we do going forward from here? I think that now that we've got Water Gun, that's just a significantly stronger move than the Bubble. We can heal up and then try to get through these randos. Let's see how it goes. Now, once we get up here to Mauville, there is a decent chance that I will end up going for an Ice Beam strat in order to get a freeze at the right moment, and maybe that can get me through a really tough fight. We'll just kind of have to test this and see as we go. Now, ultimately, I don't think I'm able to get through this Aroma Lady right here. I keep fighting her and keep losing, so I'm just going to give up on that. I'm going to go try Wattson as I am. Of course, if I end up needing Ice Beam, then I can easily go over and take that lady on, but we're just going to have to see how this actually goes. Wattson could turn out to be terrible. I think a Cherry Berry might be the way to go here rather than Quick Claw, because we might be trying to avoid the paralysis, but let's just see how this actually works out. So Wattson attempt number 1, I'm going straight for the Thunder Wave. He went for Shock Wave turn 1, which is fine. Now we can Water Gun. We see we don't do a lot of damage there. We get the self-destruct from that first Pokemon. Now I'm going Flail on the Electrike, and he uses a Super Potion here, and at least he's kind of boosting up our attack stat by going for attacks on us. The problem is that we're too slow for everything. So here I'm pretty sure we get Sonic Boomed and wrecked by the Magneton. Sure enough, we go down. Even if we got to Manectric, it was going to knock me out with the quick attack after that. So there was just no chance I was getting through on that one. So here I'm going to try going for Swagger, and then depending on what we get from this Pokemon, we'll just have to see. But this just doesn't seem to work. So I do think we have to go for the Ice Beam. I think that's our only possible way through. If we do get through with Ice Beam, we're going to put this Pokemon in a different category than our main passers because of the fact that it has to use the OP move from the game corner. So here I've actually thrown Ice Beam on over Thunder Wave on the basis that we really want to freeze at this point, not paralyze. It could be a mistake later on, I'm not sure, but we're just going to have to try and see with what we've got right now. Of course, this does mean that I can now take on the Aroma Lady. Since I've got a super effective move, we can pretty easily get through her, and we should get one more level before we go back to Wattson. We could also use a rare candy to get to level 20 here. I'm not sure if it actually brings any benefit, but you know, that is a strategy as well. I think at this point, I'm going to go Quick Claw rather than going for Cherry Berry as my held item, because I think what I want to do is outspeed and be able to freeze an opponent, or at least knock them out fairly quickly, and then we'll just have to see how we go from there. But this could be really YOLO in some spots, so I just don't think we're going to get through unless we go for this sort of strategy. So now against the Voltorb, my strategy is pretty simple. I'm going for the Quick Claw activation and Ice Beam. We can see it looks like a 3-hit KO here. It tries to Shockwave after having gone for the rollout turn 1, so we do manage to at least get through that Pokemon. Electrike looks like a simple 2-hit KO with Ice Beam, which is kind of nice. That will bring out the Magneton. It goes Thunder Wave. We're just going to sit here and spam Swagger, hoping this Pokemon hits itself. Of course, we need it to hit itself a lot of times if we're going to get through this. And if it snaps out of confusion, we simply get wrecked. It might be better to go for the Swagger if we get the Quick Claw activation here against that first Voltorb. So I'm going to try that in these future runs just because it might hit itself in confusion. And before he goes for a electric type move against us, I think he still has a chance of using electric type moves. So it might just be that we get the advantage by getting him to use something else or hit himself in confusion and not know yet that we have Volt Absorb. So this time we managed to take out that first Pokemon, no problem. We get Leer from the Electrike, but we get to knock it out after that. So we've made it back to the Magneton. I'm going Ice Beam here, trying to get the freeze. We get Thunder Wave. We Ice Beam again. It goes Supersonic. We're unable to move there. It finally goes Shockwave and we get the freeze. So now I think we can sit here and spam Water Gun or whatever, just trying to knock this Pokemon out while it's frozen. The problem, of course, is that we're also paralyzed, but we get him to use his super potions here. So we're getting somewhere with this. It's not the greatest, but ultimately it should be possible to get through this Pokemon if we get the right luck. Unfortunately, we didn't get it that time. Still, that seems to be the play, is to get the situation where he never actually gets the chance to use an electric type move against us with the first couple of Pokemon, so that he has a chance to use something like the Shockwave later on. So we're kind of fine with him going rollout with the Voltorb to give us that chance. On attempt number 10, we do actually manage to make it to Manectric, though we're on very low health. I think we would need a Quick Claw with Swagger to have a chance. It goes Quick Attack and we simply lose. So if it can Quick Attack, we're obviously not going to win no matter what we do. So we just have to keep trying this again. Here on attempt 19, we do manage to make it to Manectric, but yet again, we're on such low health. It's just going to Quick Attack and completely destroy me. And Quick Attack has priority. As far as I know, Quick Claw cannot overcome a Quick Attack. So we're always going to get hit there and simply lose if we get there on low health. So while we are doing reasonably well here for a water type, we are getting fairly deep into this fight with these Swagger strats. At the end of the day, it doesn't seem to quite be enough. And I've gotten a lot of runs where I have managed to freeze this Magneton for multiple turns and then set up all the Swaggers on it and get it to hit itself. We still just generally get through on really low health because this Pokemon is going to spam away with these Sonic Booms. We just don't get the luck to actually get through to the Manectric with any reasonable amount of HP. If we ever did, well, obviously we would have a decent chance of getting through here, but it just doesn't seem to quite work out. This Pokemon really just wishes that it got more of a moveset here in the early game and wasn't in the slow level up group. If we were here 5 levels higher like we would be in a lot of other level groups, we might actually have a legit chance of getting through because we'd be so bulky. Here, however, it seems like we just don't quite have what it takes to get through. So it's on that basis that I am going to give up on the Lanturn. I just don't think it has enough to get through here. At the end of the day, short of God tier luck, that's not what we're resetting here for. It's not to prove every Pokemon that's possible to get through, because with Swagger, technically everything will become possible at some point. It's about reasonability, and at the end of the day, this is not reasonable, so we're giving up on this Pokemon. So coming back with channel member Andross's Pikachu Mascot, we're here with Surf, Thunderbolt, Hidden Power, Ice, and Brick Break. It's going to be kind of interesting to see how this goes as we go through this section. I expect that the Thunderbolt will be good enough to get us through Brawly eventually, and we should have a pretty decent chance when we get to Wattson on the basis that we resist electric type moves, and we've got Brick Break on the moveset, which could be pretty good, and we're rocking the Light Ball as our held item, which effectively doubles the power of our special moves. So I expect this Pikachu to be completely OP as we go through this, but let's just see how it actually turns out. Now, don't worry about the fact that it's showing like an hour down there. That's just because I stepped away to take a little bit of a break during this time. But now we are ready to make our way down to Dewford, and I think with the Light Ball, we go straight to Brawly here, because I don't think his Pokemon can actually survive against all of our moves. I could be wrong, but I think Stab Thunderbolt is just going to be too strong here, so let's see if it actually works out. So Brawly attempt number 1 right here. I'm just going to go straight for the Thunderbolt, and that is going to 2-shot here against the Machop. He goes for the Super Potion, which is perfectly fine. We'll still just take that Pokemon down. Out comes the Meditite. We're just going for the Thunderbolt here as well, since it can't miss. We'll just get the easy 2-hit KO, and that's going to bring us to the MkII, which is 9 levels higher than us, but we're faster, and we didn't get the 1-hit KO, and Philo Throw destroyed me. So clearly, we do need a little bit of luck here, a crit on that last Pokemon to get the victory. Let's go. Still, I think resetting for 1 critical hit here is perfectly reasonable. We could also get paralysis and get luck that way. So I think we're just going to sit here and reset on this one for a minute. This time we do paralyze MkII, but it still moves. We just need it not to move. I'm pretty sure we can knock it out after the Citrus Berry. So we're just going to have to keep testing this to see. Now, this does, of course, reveal the one problem with this Pokemon, which is that it doesn't have a lot of defense. So there is a decent chance that we simply get wrecked because of the fact that we can't actually survive hits. We're just going to have to see how that goes as we go forward, because yeah, we're getting kind of wrecked here when we don't get the crits. It might be that we'd be better off going and taking on all the randos on the way up to the rival, just to get a few extra levels here. But honestly, we've had plenty of times where we've gotten the MkII paralyzed and then we've just not gotten the luck to actually get it to go down. So I think this is still winnable at this point. It's especially true because the first 2 Pokemon are complete non-factors here. It's only the MkII that has any chance against us. Here we finally get the critical hit in attempt number 26. So just like that, we get to level 13 as the MkII goes down. So not the prettiest fight, but it's just because we have like no defense there. Still, we've gotten that done. We can make our way now to all of the randos, make our way up to the rival, where yet again, we're going to have to see how we do. I believe we're up against the Marshtomp here. I'm pretty sure if Pikachu gets hit by a Mud Shot, it's just dead. So we might need some crazy luck here. I'm honestly not sure how this is going to go. It might be that with the Surf plus the Light Ball, we're able to find a way through. So we'll just have to test that and see. Now, Pikachu could learn Double Team at this point, but I'm actually going to skip the move. I don't think we want to learn it. It is technically allowed under my rule set because it is a level up move rather than being learned via TM. But I think the point of this Pikachu is mostly to see how it does with damage dealing moves going through the game. So I'm going to skip this one for now. It could be a mistake. I don't know, maybe we would want to replace Hidden Power with it, but for now, I figure what the heck, this is a member pick. If we really decide that we need Double Team later on, for a Pokemon like Pikachu that normally learns the move via level up, we could always throw on the TM, but I'm going to avoid that as much as possible. Let's just move on in this challenge. Now, it's also worth noting, earlier I accidentally had a run where I replaced the move Thunderbolt with Double Team and then realized I hadn't saved since before I fought against Brawly. So I'm actually going to go fight Brawly again now that I'm at level 15. I'm 3 levels higher than I was last time. I'm just kind of interested to see if I can now suddenly just get the easy victories because I'm at a higher level, but let's see if that works out or not. So when we come back to Brawly at level 15, we can go Thunderbolt here and one-shot the first Machop. Now, the Meditite comes out, we Thunderbolt, and we destroy that Pokemon in a single hit. And that brings us to the MkII, Thunderbolt, one-shots. So if we did just go fight all of the randos available before the rival, this actually becomes a completely trivial fight against Brawly. It's good to know. Sometimes I forget to save after I beat a major boss, and then I have a reset and have to go back and face them again. Usually it doesn't get into the video because it's not really worth talking about, but in this case I did think it was worth just noting how much that changes the ranges there just by getting those 3 levels. It is a pretty big swing. Now we're ready to go take on the rival though, and we've got to see if we can manage to get through here or not. I've got a setup for Hidden Power Ice. I'm actually not sure that that's what was originally put there by Andross, because I think that the move Hidden Power Grass would actually do a lot more for us here, at least against this rival and her Marshtomp. But let's just see how it goes. Maybe we can get through with this set. So first up, we've got the Wingull. We have the obvious solution for Wingull, just Thunderbolt and one-shot that Pokemon. And we get to level 17 right here as the Slugma comes out next. That's perfectly fine. We'll just Surf and knock it out. And that will bring out the Grovyle. Wait just a second. I thought it was up against the Marshtomp team. I'm up against the Grovyle team. Well, this makes it super easy. Yeah, we just go for Hidden Power Ice twice and completely win. But wait just a second. I want to see how we would do here if we went up against the Marshtomp team. So I'm going to test that separately. So this time we're coming up against the Lombre instead. And we don't really have anything great here. I'm going to go for the Thunderbolt. It's going to be a 2-hit KO. We get hit by Astonish and we easily take this Pokemon down. But now we're going to get the Marshtomp. And this is the Pokemon that I actually wanted to see, since obviously we can't use electric moves here. If we go Surf, it does less than half, and then Mudshot destroys me. So let's see if any other moves can get us through this fight. Here, when we get to the Marshtomp, I'm going to try Brick Break just to see how much damage it does, and it does like nothing, because obviously it's not boosted by the Light Ball. So I think the only way that we would get through this fight, which I will argue is technically winnable, is going to be to get a critical hit and a miss from the Mudshot while we're using Surf. I think that's the only way that we could actually get this one to go with the moveset as it is currently. That being said, I'm pretty sure that if we had a Hidden Power Grass here, that it would be 4 times super effective and strong enough to get through. So I'm going to test that. I'm going to see if Hidden Power Grass is the solution for this rival. And it might have been that Andross told me to do Hidden Power Grass and I just put it in wrong, so keep that in mind as well. So hopefully I've got this in right. I have 30 DVs in HP and in Special Attack, I believe is the correct one. And let's see what that does to the ranges here when we get into this fight against the rival. So once again, we get the Lombre out first. We go for the Thunderbolt. It's going to be an easy 2-hit KO, so we get the victory right there. That will bring out the Marshtomp second. We're going for the Hidden Power Grass right here, and that does get the 1-hit KO thanks to the Light Ball. We should note the Light Ball is doubling my special attack right now. That is why that does so much damage. We get to level 18 here as the Slugma comes out, and we can just go Surf and get the easy victory. So just like that, we get through May super easily once we put on the Hidden Power Grass. And that kind of validates that, yes, we should have gone up against the Marshtomp team. That is the harder team for these electric types when you get here. But on top of that, it also just goes to show that Hidden Power can be completely broken, especially on a Pikachu with a Light Ball. And with that, the mascot of the series is ready to move on all the way up to good old Wattson. I'm hoping that the Brick Break turns out to be enough for the Magneton, but we might actually be better off going for Surf there. And then I think we Surf everything else because we have the massive special attack. I think that's actually the best way to go. Still, we'll test everything and see, but that is going to be my general strategy here. And of course, this is the point in the game where if we ever wanted to, we could totally YOLO on slots until we manage to actually get enough coins to get access to Thunderbolt. You know, Pokemon has only been teaching kids to gamble since 1996, so we can kind of view the Thunderbolt at this point as being completely legitimate. I'm not sure that we would actually want it at this point though. It's number one, a level up move, but number two, it wouldn't be good against the gyms. So if you did get a Pikachu through to this point in the game, most likely you'd just be going for double team strats in order to get through. And then on Wattson himself, you'd be hoping that you could find some luck with paralysis or whatever in order to actually get a victory. Interestingly, Pikachu would learn Slam at this point, so it would have a stronger normal type move. It would also learn Rollout at this point, giving it a way to build up against the electric type Pokemon in the next gym. Maybe that could get it through. And I'm kind of shocked to see that Pikachu learns Dig in this generation, but hey, whatever works, I guess. Still, we're not going to go for any of that. We're just going to stick with what we've got. So with no issues, of course, we make it to good old Wattson right here. And it's time to see how we actually do against him. So let's get into this and find out how it actually works. So Wattson attempts number one. We are slower than the first Voltorb. It goes Shockwave. We don't take too much damage. And then Surf looks like a 2-hit KO here. We force him to use a Super Potion. Spark also doesn't do much. We get fully paralyzed though, and we get knocked out by Self-Destruct. Oh no. Let's try this again. The big issue does seem to be that this Voltorb is paralyzing me and is getting self-destructs on me, and we're fully paralyzed again and we get wrecked. So we have yet to get past the first Voltorb in multiple attempts. Now, it looks like when we get hit by Spark, Static can activate. So if we don't get paralyzed, but he does, we'll be able to knock out this Pokemon very easily. We just haven't gotten that level of luck yet. Every time that he's gotten paralyzed by Spark is the same turn that I've gotten paralyzed. Unless there's like some weird interaction with that. That is what's currently keeping me from getting through this first Pokemon. Of course, if we ever get a crit, that will also knock this Pokemon out. Here we do finally crit in the 8th attempt here. We've made it to the Electrike, which we simply one-shot. Out comes the Magneton, and we are faster than this Pokemon. I'm going to try Surf first. A critical hit one-shots there, getting us to level 22. Manectric's out. It goes Howl. I go Surf. It looks like a 3-hit KO here, barring a crit, so we simply lose on that attempt. It is worth noting that if we were using Double Team here, we would be forcing them to use Shockwave against us and not use their stronger neutral moves, which might be exactly what Pikachu actually needs here because it's not very good at absorbing damage. This time we finally get Spark to paralyze the Voltorb, and he goes for a Super Potion, so we simply get to knock it out. Once again, the Electrike is basically a non-factor. It goes Quick Attack here, but we still managed to knock it out after that. Back to the Magneton, another critical hit on the Magneton, so that's nice. And back to Manectric. We hit Surf, it Quick Attacks. We didn't get the paralysis. We kind of want it to be paralyzed there because that opens up the chance for it to be fully paralyzed. We got knocked out after that. Here it might actually be better to use a weaker move first and not get a Super Potion on that first Voltorb. It's kind of better if he uses it on Electrike, but when we're paralyzed, we're not going to be able to get through the Magneton. And here we can see that Shockwave from Magneton does pretty decent damage. So we are getting back to Manectric, but not with very much health, and it simply knocks me out from there. Still, we managed to get through Magneton again, getting back to Manectric. Here, I think we just have to get a critical hit, and if we don't, we're simply going to lose. So what I can say definitively is that Brick Break really isn't doing much for us here. Like, I've been sitting here grinding away at this for quite a while and not being able to get through. So it could be that the Brick Break is actually the move that needs to go because we're such a special attacker. I kind of want to try a Dig strategy here, though, against the Magneton specifically, because Dig will be 4 times super effective there rather than 2 times super effective, and maybe the extra damage will be enough to get us through since we're already faster than that Pokemon anyway. So let's just try this and see what happens if we go Dig. I think this is especially valid because we haven't really used Brick Break for anything this entire time. So Dig would make sense on the moveset. It would have been another super effective move against Roxanne had we needed it. So I think this is the way to go. Of course, we only do that because this is a member pick and because I really want to know what it would take for a Pikachu to get through Wattson. We may find out that this is just basically impossible or we have to go Swagger in that spot or something, but eventually I'm hoping that we can get through. So in this case, we're going to get back to Magneton. We're going Dig here just to see what we do. It's not enough to one-hit KO with the 4 times super effectiveness, so we still end up getting paralyzed there. Nothing we can do about that. So after a lot of resets there, that doesn't seem to work. So I think the next strategy is the Swagger strat. Obviously, Swagger is legitimately available at this point in the game. It will allow us to confuse that Magneton, and then we can try to knock it out. If it just hits itself once, we will be able to get through that Pokemon without any damage. So let's see how this goes. So coming back with these Swagger strats, I'm actually going to Swagger at the Voltorb, then Surf against it. It hits itself in confusion. He's just going to get stuck in a Super Potion loop here, so that's perfectly fine. That brings us to the Electrike, and here's the Swagger is just about getting this Magneton to hit itself so that we don't get paralyzed. If it goes for the Thunder Wave, we basically have to reset at that point. This time I decided to just go with it because I'm on pretty good health getting through that Magneton, and instead I'm going to Swagger here at the Manectric, hoping it hits itself in confusion. It obliges. Surf doesn't do enough, but it uses the Citrus Berry only to snap out of confusion immediately and knock me out. Still, that is a way that we could potentially get through, so we're going to have to sit here and grind for a minute and see if we can get the luck or not. So there is one last strategy that I want to try before I give up or do anything too YOLO, and that is to give Pikachu access to Defense Curl. The idea here being very simple. We set up Defense Curl when we're up against the Electrike to get a lot of defense, so that when we get to the final Manectric, it can't deal that much damage to us. Let's see if this could possibly work. So this time we paralyze the Voltorb, which is perfect. We're just going to knock that Pokemon out. Now against Electrike, I'm going Defense Curl in order to increase my defenses as it just goes Howl here. Its Quick Attack's not going to do that much. It howls again. Now let's knock this Pokemon out. We've made it to the Magneton. We don't have any status here, but I think that's fine as long as we knock this Pokemon out. We still have 15 HP as we go to the final Manectric. In fact, we level up, so we get 17 HP, but it's able to knock me out with a Shockwave from that level of HP because I don't have any increase to my special defense. It's only my special attack that's boosted. We can see my special defense stat is about half of the special attack stat of Manectric. So we're going to need a little bit more luck than that if we're going to get through this. But unfortunately, this does not seem to be working. So last kind of YOLO strat, Defense Curl rollout, and we simply go without the Light Ball here. We can replace Thunderbolt since it's not going to be used in this battle and it's available as a TM, so we could always relearn it. Let's see if this gives us some sort of way to get through. And in this case, I'm going Cherry Berry to try to avoid paralysis and taking off the Light Ball. This is kind of nuts, but this might be the strategy. Let's find out. So here I'm going straight for Defense Curl and then going into Rollout against this first Voltorb. It looks like a 2-hit KO there with a crit. That brings us to Electrike. We just destroy it. Now Magneton. We do massive damage. It hits the Thunder Wave, but then we simply destroy it from there. That brings us to the final Manectric on better health. So I'm going to try to set up the Rollout here and just see. We get a nice crit there. He heals. We survive against one of his quick attacks, and then we get the victory. So Defense Curl rollout turns out to be the strategy for Pikachu to beat Wattson, and it's not super pretty. Just saying. Andross, you got through in the end, but that was kind of brutal, and it's because we just don't have enough survivability, both in terms of special defense and defense at this level. We're just kind of getting destroyed by the Pokemon in front of us. So take that for what you will. We got to come back with a Pichu, and this one might be brutal too. We're just going to have to find out. Still, I'm going to give a massive thank you to Andross. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. We have gotten your mascot Pikachu through. We've got the Surf for the next gym, which will hopefully get us through Flannery just fine. We're going to have to see how we do against Norman. Maybe we can take advantage of some truancy or something. We'll just have to see, especially if we've got a move like Dig against that Pokemon. We might be able to just mess with the slacking if we can get there, but we're going to have to find out if that works or not. For now, hey, we've made it this far in the challenge, and we're ready to move on now to Pichu. So we come in with SurferRat the Pichu, coming in with Surf, Charm, Thunder Wave, and Thunder Shock. I'm going to tell you right now, Pokemon WWW411 Mark II, that we need to upgrade this moveset. We need some stronger moves than this if we're going to get the job done. Now, looking at the Learn set, we'll only get Sweet Kiss at level 11, which I don't think is going to be enough for us here. Reversal could come into play. That could be an interesting strat. We could also get Wish as a egg move, which could be very interesting on this Pokemon. I'm not sure how we're going to do here, though. I mean, a lot of our TM compatibility is pretty similar to Pikachu, but there is no Dig or things like that on here. Defense Curl rollout strats might come in. We're just going to have to see, but I think we're going for Thunderbolt right away here. Additionally, in this one, we're going through all of the randos that we can before we even try our hand at Brawly, because I think we'll just get wrecked by his physical damage. And unlike Pikachu, we don't have the Light Ball to boost our special attacks to be so incredibly strong that we just one-shot everything there. Even at level 15, I'm pretty sure it's going to be tough. We're just going to have to see how this section goes. Now, we do have access to Charm as a way to reduce damage against us, so that could be a strategy as we go through this. Again, I'm not sure it's going to be a great strategy, but we can always test it just to see if it works. I don't think it will help us when we get to the final battle against Wattson by any means, but who knows? Maybe it gets us through some other things. We'll just have to test and see. Now, this is also another Pokemon that we might have to go Hidden Power Grass just to get through the Marshtomp on the next rival. I'm pretty sure we can get through a rival that's not the Marshtomp rival without too much difficulty, but that one might just be too much for us. In fact, we just blacked out against one of the Plusle and Minun trainers, and I didn't save before that fight because I didn't expect to lose a rando fight. And so we've just had to go back all the way to the start of this entire section to do it again. So I get the feeling that even if we can somehow get through, this is going to be absolutely brutal, and we're probably going to be in bad shape. So now that I'm back, I'm going to make sure to save once here before I fight these trainers, because they're actually not easy for this little Pichu. And of course, we have to fight against Pokemon that have basically ripped off our design. But yeah, those quick attacks are doing a lot of damage. We managed to get through this time, but with 1 HP remaining. So yeah, really not looking great. This might be our first member pick Pokemon that I actually legitimately have to give up on, or give like a stupidly broken moveset just to have a chance. But now we're at level 15. We've defeated all of the trainers that we can before we either have to beat Brawly or we have to beat the rival. I'm going to try Brawly because I think he gives us better chances. I think the Marshtomp probably just ends this Pokemon. We'll just have to see. So here we are against Brawly. I'm going to try going Oranberry as my held item here. Let's see what this does for us. Maybe we can manage to get through. We're just going to have to find out. So Brawly attempt number 1. This time I don't have Thunderbolt on the moveset. I've actually just got Thunder Shock. I think we're probably going to have to put Thunderbolt on. We get one shot by a Karate Chop here. Let's try this again. In fact, because of our fairly low stats, it might even be better to go Thunder here. And here, in fact, I've just realized I even had an error going on my overlay where I had, for some reason, gotten the 6th and 7th badges. It's something weird that's going on my back end. I noticed it earlier when I went to look back at the Butterfree as well. The Butterfree run, I don't think it affected anything because mostly that was about sleep strats. Here, however, that's massive. We might not have actually gotten through those last couple of fights nearly as consistently without effectively a badge boost in special. So we're going to have to see how this goes. I'm going to try this again. Now that we're set properly, let's see if we can get through. Now, I've made one moveset change here. I've added on Thunder, the strongest move that we can possibly get. We see even that is going to put this in a 2-hit KO range on the first Machop. That will bring out the Meditite, which fortunately can't do anything. So we can just sit here and spam away with Surf and get the victory. Since this move is 100% accurate, that brings us to MkII, where I'm going to try Thunder. It does about half. We will need a critical hit to knock that Pokemon out. Still, at least that gives us a pretty good idea of exactly what we need here. We're going to have to hit a couple of Thunders, with one being a critical hit to get the victory. At least we know that the Meditite is a complete non-factor, so we can just sit here and spam away. I'm going to try to go Charm on the MkII once just to reduce its damage and allow us to use the Oranberry there. We get the paralysis on MkII as well as it goes for its Citrus Berry, and now it goes Bulk Up. I'm going to see if Thunder can take it down. We miss, but it's fully paralyzed, and that does ultimately allow us to get the victory. But you've got to go all the way to Thunder with this little Pichu in order to make that reasonable, and then you still need some luck with paralysis, luck with accuracy. I mean, it's not great getting through to this point in the game. Charm certainly does help there, though, by allowing you to survive a hit. I'm just not sure that Charm is going to do enough for us in this next fight against the rival. We might need to go for the Swagger in order to get the opponent to hit themselves in confusion, and then go for the Charm after that. That might be the only strategy that actually works. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and learn Swagger, but I don't know, maybe with Swagger we don't want Charm and we do want Thunder Wave so that we can go for some Parafusion. That's what I think I'm going to go for. But then again, there's not a whole lot that we want electric type moves for. I don't know. I'm not sure what the best play is. I guess I'll go Charm and the Swagger just because maybe we can reach a point where we can't be knocked out easily. I'm not sure. I think ultimately I'm going to just replace Charm. Probably a mistake. Tell me about it in the comments. I know that Pokemon WWW411 Mark II will tell me about it in the comments. if he thinks it's a mistake, but we're just gonna have to test this and see if we can manage to get through this next fight or not against this Marshtomp. I'm just really not confident that we're gonna get it to go without Swagger, and we don't really have any better moves here other than going for Hidden Power Grass, in which case I think we could argue for Hidden Power Grass over the Charm, since after all, that last fight we could have eventually gotten through with a Thunder, so you know, it just would have needed to crit on the MkII. Take that for what you will. Let's see how we do against May. So May attempt number 1, of course, she leads off with the Lombre. I'm just going to Thunder this Pokemon. We do less than half. So let's give it a Swagger and hope it hits itself. It does. And then we miss the Thunder and get knocked out. Let's try this again. This time we get through that first Pokemon on full health. So Marshtomp comes out. We're going Swagger first. We're hoping that it hits itself. It goes Mud Shot and we die. So ultimately, I think that's what this is going to come down to, is not being able to survive against physical damage in particular. Like, we're just so weak here that anything that hits us with a strong physical move is just going to absolutely destroy this little SurferRat. So ultimately, that doesn't seem to work. Here's the strategy that I think I'm going for next. I'm going to replace both Charm and Thunder Wave here with the moves Wish and Defense Curl. My logic is pretty simple. If I can manage to set up Defense Curl and heal with Wish enough times, I may be able to reach a point where I can simply survive the damage from my opponents. Let's see if this can work or not. This is, of course, making us a lot more survivable as we set up all of our defense curls here. But if we get any critical hits, we simply get wrecked. So we're going to have to be very careful here. But this is the only way that I think we might be able to survive. Now, of course, we can't heal immediately, so we do have to take multiple turns. But Wish is an egg move on this Pokemon, and Defense Curl is a tutor move. So technically, these are 2 legal moves. I think this strategy would have eventually gotten us through Brawly because we would have been able to heal up and set up our defenses. I think it would have gotten us through Roxanne as well eventually. So while it's not going to be perfectly consistent by any means, I do think it ultimately is a reasonable strategy to go for. Here we've gotten everything set up. I'm going to go for Wish. And now I'm going to start attacking against the Lombre. And we're just going to keep spamming away with the Wish here. I came in with more PP and Wish than would be normal, but I think this is fine. Ultimately, it's going to work out. So I'm going to set up one more Wish here against the Lombre before I hopefully knock it out this turn and go to the next Marshtomp. We get a heal up right here. Let's see if we can survive a hit. We take more than half, even on +6 defense, from the Mud Shot, and then Water Gun simply ends us. So no, it turns out that we cannot get through in that situation. However, I have one last YOLO strat that yet again I think would have gotten us through Brawly. And since we used Surf in order to get through the first gym, my strategy is to go counter. The entire idea here being that when they do hit us with physical damage, we can counter the damage back. And that will enable us to knock out both of these first 2 Pokemon when they use physical moves. I think this is the way to go. So I'm going to stick with my Wish-based strategies here against this first Lombre. We're just hoping seriously for no crits. So we're just going to have to reset when we do get a critical hit there. In this case, it might even be better to not try to set up all of the defense curls, just to go for like maybe 4 defense curls and then try to get the setup that we need to knock this opponent out. So I'm going to use Wish, and then I'm going to try to counter when the opponent goes for physical moves against me. Let's see if we can get the range to get the KOs here. Of course, if Lombre just decides to go for things like Absorb, we can't do anything. But if it goes for the Nature Power, we can. The problem is that we just can't deal much damage otherwise if we don't get those physical moves. So we're going to have to try this again. Still, that doesn't seem to work here. So we're going to need another strategy in order to get through this one. So I think now the strategy is Rollout. Let's try that instead. Just because maybe we build it up enough with the defense curl that we can get through this. Let's find out. So here when we get fully set up, we'll Wish, and now we'll go into Rollout. knowing that it's not going to deal a lot of damage here, but what we're hoping is that by the time we get to the Marsh Stomp, it builds up enough that we're able to get a KO there. It's going to be the last turn of rollout when we get there, and we do massive damage. We survive the mud shot. Let's see if Surf can get us through. Unfortunately, we're too slow after the mud shot and we get knocked out. We would need a crit on the Marsh Stomp to get through at this point. Or maybe we just got a bad range there on that first Lombre. So this is probably worth going for something like a Quick Claw or going for a healing item like an Oran Berry. So I'm going to test it and see. There's just not a lot that we can really do here though. This time we knock out the Lombre in 3 hits. So we're to the Marsh Stomp a little bit better than before. Once again, we get the speed drop though, and we simply cannot survive after that. So that means Quick Claw or nothing in order to get through this, with the Quick Claw basically being required to activate on that second turn against the Marsh Stomp. But here as I test this just doesn't work. So I think what we have to do finally is we have to put on some moves that would actually give this Pokemon a better chance of getting through this fight. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace the rollout, since we can always learn that later, with the hidden power, and we are going to once again give ourselves hidden power grass. This is the only logical play that I can find in my mind that will work here. And I think we still kind of want Defense Curl because I'm not sure if we're going to be able to one-shot against the Marsh Stomp here. So we're just going to have to test this and see. Now, of course, Hidden Power Grass will be neutrally effective against this Lombre as well. I think we could have gotten to this point eventually with this setup with the Defense Curl and Wish. And I do think we still set up all of the Defense Curls here. We ultimately do take the Lombre down so we can see what the range is on Marsh Stomp. And we would yet again need a critical hit here or a Quick Claw activation, and we do not get it. So that strategy doesn't work. Like, we've already been grinding away here for a ridiculously long time. So this is the one place where I'm going to do what people have suggested. Why do you have to go up against the hardest rival, Teo? So let's do it. Let's go up against the Combusken line. I'm going to undo a lot of changes to my moveset here, and let's see if we can manage to get through this. I have put Thunder back on the moveset and Charm back on the moveset, plus we've got Defense Curl and we've got Surf for that Combusken. Let's see if with some defense buffs plus some charms we can manage to get through here. So of course we get the Wingull out first, a Pokemon we're not super worried about. I'm going to set up a few Defense Curls here as it growls at me. We get a Water Gun, but we're just going to counter that with a Thunder. That will get us to Lombre here. We miss a Thunder and we get hit by the Nature Power. We might actually still need Wish here with the Defense Curl rather than Charm. So since we know Lombre comes out second, I'm going to go Thunder first against the Wingull and just knock this Pokemon out. We're slower than this Pokemon though, so we are going to have to reset and try again when we get confused, get hit, whatever. We really want the Quick Claw right here, so we just take that one down on full health. That allows us to level up on the Lombre, and here's where we can start going into the same sort of strategy that we were doing before. Defense Curl into Wish, knowing that we can basically get all the Defense Curls set up here. But the difference is that when the Combusken comes out, it doesn't have any super effective moves against us. So I think we're going to get an even better chance to get through in this case. Once we get fully set up against this Pokemon, we'll just go for the Thunder. And this is a 2-hit KO after a crit. That brings out the Combusken. We've got crazy amounts of defense, at least for this Pokemon. And we can go Surf, and it looks like a simple 2-hitter. So there you go. If we go up against Combusken and we have Defense Curl, Wish, Thunder, and Surf, we can get the job done. So ultimately, it does work out. It's not the prettiest fight to get through the rival there, and I'm honestly not sure if this Pokemon has any chance of getting through Wattson at this point. I'm kind of scared for little Pichu here. I think it might be done. I think Defense Curl, Wish, rollout strats are basically what we're going for here. We'll forget Thunder. We'll have to keep Surf. But there's just a decent chance that we won't actually be able to progress through this section of the game with this Pokemon, even if we try to give it OP moves. So now that we've beaten all of the trainers before Wattson, my game plan is pretty simple. I'm going to learn the move Rollout here. I'm going to replace Thunder with it. The entire idea being that I want to set up Defense Curl, Rollout, Wish, and hope that that is enough to get through. There are no guarantees in this gym for this little Pichu. It could be dead on arrival. I'm honestly not sure. We can drop a rare candy to get to level 22, but that's literally it. Let's see if we can find a way through or not. So I'm leading off with the Wish and then going for the Defense Curls here. We're getting Shockwave, but I think we'll be able to out-heal those electric type moves, provided that we don't get stuck without being able to move. We end up 3-hit KOing there against that first Voltorb. We get a Destroy Electrike. We've made it to Magneton. We're stuck in the rollout here though, and we do not get the 1-hit KO. So unless we get a Quick Claw with Surf, I'm pretty sure we're done. And sure enough, we go down on that attempt. We're gonna have to try this again. This time we get through the first Voltorb not paralyzed. We miss the rollout here on the Electrike. So I'm going to set up more Defense Curls and Wishes here, since I think this Pokemon's going to want to mostly go for physical moves against me. Once we get set up, now I'm going to go for the rollout here again. This appears to be a 3-hit KO, but we do take it down. We're on to the Magneton. It hits Sonic Boom. We are fully paralyzed and cannot move. We definitely want to Wish here, since we're getting hit by the Sonic Booms. There's not much we can do against that. We're just not going to be able to deal enough damage, and we go down. And the issue that we have here is just like Pikachu, we're just not survivable enough to survive against all of the random hits that we take from this team. We can see even Voltorb with Shockwave is doing a lot of damage here. So we're kind of in a tough spot. So this hasn't been working as I've been grinding here for a while, so I'm going to try a different strategy. I'm going to try a Choice Band with Hidden Power Ground as my move. Let's just see if that can somehow get me through this fight. So in this case, of course, I'm just going to lead off with the Hidden Power, and we do a lot of damage here to this first Voltorb, but we'll need a crit to actually take it down. Let's try this again. This does at least make the range look a little bit similar to what we had with Pikachu before, so maybe it gives us a chance, especially since this move is 4 times super effective on the Magneton. This time we do get the KO on the first Voltorb. The Electrike is going to be a 2-hitter, but we do ultimately take it down. That brings us to Magneton. We're slower and we simply get wrecked because we just couldn't do anything. So not looking great. We're gonna need better luck than that if we're gonna get through this one. I think I'm gonna go for the rare candy here just to see if that affects ranges at all, because that's the last play that I've got available to me. Of course, it doesn't raise our stats a lot, and we're still slower than the first Voltorb, so it's not like that one level does a lot in a lot of these situations. Typically speaking, at this point in the game, one level is not going to be the difference between winning or losing against Wattson, unless there's like a really extenuating circumstance, like there's a really strong move that's available in one level if you just use that rare candy right now. Most of the time, it's just not going to be enough to overcome this challenge that's in front of us. This time we get a Sonic Boom miss from the Magneton, but even then, the Hidden Power Ground is not enough to one-shot even with the Choice Band. So we're getting kind of wrecked here as we get to the final Manectric for the first time with this Pichu. We just don't have any HP. We're going to get a quick attack and simply go down. So that doesn't work. Now we can try this again with the rollout strat just to see if the increased attack power there gives us a chance. Of course, we've actually got to be able to hit, so we're going to have to reset when we miss. So I think it's time to just go YOLO on a strategy that I just want to see if it gets us through Wattson. It's not a strategy that I think would actually get us to this point in the game, but I still want to test this out just to know, just to see if this is enough to get this Pokemon through. We're going to go Wish, Light Screen, Defense Curl, and Surf. Obviously, if we get a critical hit, we'll get wrecked, but the idea is that with Light Screen, we should be able to reduce the special damage against us, making us more survivable as we wish to recover HP. We can set up Defense Curl to be more survivable against physical hits, and then we're just hoping we can surf everything down. I'm also going to go Citrus Berry here. I'm at least going to match Wattson item for item so that we have some extra healing if we need it. Let's see how this goes. So in this case, I'm going to lead off with the light screen. Of course, he just booms on me. Good job. Oh man, Wattson, what a troll. Here when he starts going spark though, we can go light screen, we can go wish. We're just hoping that he doesn't manage to knock me out with a self-destruct there. Maybe it's better to defense curl first and then go for the light screen. I'm honestly not sure. But at least this gives us a way to potentially survive. Of course, even in this case, we just don't really survive. So I'm kind of at a loss. Definitely Pokemon WWW411 Mark II. If you have a strategy that you think will get through here, drop it in the comments. Let me know. But I've been sitting here trying a lot of different things for quite a while. Pichu seems like it just gets hard-walled here at Wattson. Like I just can't find something that gets me through with enough HP to get to the Manectric and even have a shot there. Everything seems to basically break down. So I think this is our first member pick that we actually have to eliminate here. Still, I will give a massive thank you to Pokemon WWW411 Mark II for supporting both here on YouTube and on Patreon. And it's not like he's out of the running because he's got a Lugia. So we'll have to see what we do with Lugia when we get here too. We're just gonna have to test that and see. But for now, let me just give you a massive thank you for your support, Pokemon WWW411 Mark II, for supporting here. You're an absolute legend. I appreciate you. Like I said, if you got a strategy that you think will get this done, drop it in the comments down below. But I've been grinding here for an hour and a half and this hasn't worked for me. So just take that for what you will. Anyway, that does it for this one. Let's move on in our challenge. So coming back to our results so far, we have lost for the very first time a member pick. So this Pichu, it automatically jumped up into the pass column, and I may continue this Pokemon just by letting it just get a win against Wattson just to see. But for now, I'm going to officially move it into the fail column. Sad as it is, but still, Pokemon WWW411 Mark II has been supporting me across my channels for literally about 3 years now. So I do want to give him a chance, maybe a second chance at life. So we might go a little bit harder in order to get that Pokemon back. I'm going to mark it right now as a Pokemon that might get a redo, especially if he drops a comment and tells me try this or try doing that instead. But we might also just come back and, like I said, give this Pokemon a chance to get through and move on in the game thanks to his support, just to see maybe Wattson is the only true like major wall for this Pokemon for a while. Maybe it can find a way to cheese through other things. It's just that double team strats don't work here, and the fragility of this Pokemon is just brutal. Anyway, that does it for that one. We're gonna move on next to our Mightyena. We're gonna get Mightyena and Linoone out, and then we'll go to Ludicolo and just see how that Pokemon goes. Assuming it gets through, we'll step down, but I'm just gonna tell you right now, I think there's a high likelihood it does not get through, and we simply end up eliminating Lotad and Lombre as well, but we won't know till we try, so let's find out. So continuing on with our legit challengers, we of course now have Mightyena, the first of our early root fully evolved Pokemon from Pokemon Emerald. As a pure dark type, we obviously cannot go to Brawly, at least not soon. We're coming into this section with Bite, Howl, Sand Attack, and Tackle. Howl strats could be kind of interesting here, but do we get any moves that we can actually use it with? We're going to learn Odor Sleuth at level 17 and Roar at level 22, neither of which I think are going to do anything for us. Swagger would be a level up move at level 27, but of course we can get that via Move Tutor. But then we get Thief, we get Rock Smash, neither of which are super exciting here, and that appears to be it. So this Pokemon might just be dead on arrival when it gets to Wattson, because we might not have the power to actually get through. Obviously, Stab Bite is going to be our best play there, though we could try to set up some Sand Attacks and Howl and Tackle and find a way through somehow. But I'm just saying right now, I am not confident in this Pokemon going forward. I get the feeling that we're probably getting wrecked. Still, I'm just going to take on all the randos first. We may have to go to the rival before we make our way to Brawly, and I believe we're up against the Combuskin team here. This is a standard Pokemon, so I'm not going to put it up against an easier rival. My style is to go up against the hardest rival in general on the basis that that's how you actually play the game. That's how the rivals are set up to have a type advantage on you. It's really only for a member pick that I would ever think about intentionally going against an easier rival like that Pichu. So we're going to have to see how this goes. I might end up giving up on this Pokemon if it just doesn't seem to be working for me. We'll just have to see. Stab and Bite might actually turn out to be decent though, for all I know, and we've got reasonable speed and reasonable stats overall, so maybe we can make this work. So here I will get Thief since it is a same type move, and there is a small chance that we could have a situation where we end up against, say, a MkII or a Manectric where we want to try to use Thief in order to take their held item and somehow gain some advantage off of that. I'm just saying that it's not very likely that that will ever actually work. But who knows? I mean, we've got to try things, and Mightyena would be a perfect Pokemon to try a dark type move like Thief just to see if it works. But here, as we get through all the randos, I'm going to go try my hand at the rival once on the basis that maybe I could set up enough Howls in order to actually deal reasonable damage with Tackle. Maybe I can use Sand Attack in order to allow me to set up those Howls. I'm honestly not sure. I'm going to test this and see how it goes in this fight. So here, May leads off with the Wingull. I'm immediately going to Sand Attack this Pokemon. I am slightly slower than the Wingull, which is pretty bad. And we're hitting ourselves in confusion every single turn, so we simply go down. Let's test this again and see if we can get some better luck than that. And I didn't realize that starting in this generation, Sand Attack can't affect flying types, something that it could do in previous generations, so I've just been sitting here wasting turns. We're gonna have to try this again. Man, we wish we were up against the Lombre first. So here, I'm going to go for a few Howls, and then I'm going to try to Tackle here. And we get the Wingull in a 2-hit KO range. Out comes the Combuskin. It goes Focus Energy. I Tackle, and at least on +3 attack, we're only doing about a quarter here, and Double Kick will simply end me. So we're going to have to get better luck than that if we're going to get through this. We might want to have a Healing Berry on or something so that we can get some HP back, and then ideally sit here and spam all the Howls to get as much attack power as possible. And then maybe at some point we can crit and just one shot against that opponent. The Wingull does do reasonable damage to us though, so we gotta be kind of careful here. I'm gonna give the Oran Berry and see if that affects things. So there's no way that I can fully set up, but I can knock that Pokemon out at least. And then we get here to the Combuskin and we're technically slower, so we would need that Pokemon to go for Focus Energy here. And that's only possible if it's not guaranteed to get a one-hit KO. So I'm honestly not sure how this can actually work. Another strategy is to just go all in on the attack against the Wingull, knock it out as quick as possible, and then against the Combuskin, hope that it goes for the Focus Energy and that we can start Sand Attacking there. But the fact that we're slower at this point is a massive issue. It basically means that we can't really go Oran Berry here. We have to go Quick Claw and hope that we can get the luck in order to actually be able to hit that Combuskin, and we might need to go for like Swagger here. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go pick up Swagger. I'm going to replace Sand Attack with Swagger because we're not able to use the Sand Attack to set up against the Wingull. So at least we could learn Swagger and Swagger the Wingull and maybe force it to hit itself in confusion a couple times, giving us a chance to set up. That's really the best that I can think of right here. No matter how we do this, this is not going to be a pretty fight. So here we Swagger the Wingull. Now I'm going for some Howls. Of course, it's going to Wing Attack against me. That's perfectly fine. We're just hoping to set up as much as we can with Howl here. And then eventually we've got to knock that Pokemon out. We took a crit, so we simply went down. Here we do at least Swagger the Combuskin, and it hits itself in confusion. It hits itself again. We bite, but it snaps out of confusion right there, and we get wrecked. I had to go bite in that one because I didn't have any Howls set up. So we're just going to have to sit here and try this again. Now, the fact is that we're so close in speed to these Pokemon that I think we have to go and try our hand at Brawly. Because honestly, that might be our only possible way through this. Like, if we can manage to get the right swagger luck on the first Machop, we can obviously take down the MkII, and then we just need a lot of luck on that Makuhita, but maybe if we get built up enough, we can take it down reasonably well. I'm honestly not sure, so we're just gonna have to test this and find out, but I think there's a high likelihood we lose here. Quick Claw obviously does nothing for us in this particular fight. I think we have to go back to something like an Oranberry and just hope that we can survive. I'm not confident, but we're just gonna have to test it and see. So Brawly attempt number 1, of course, we get to intimidate the very first Machop, and I'm going to swagger this Pokemon, hoping that it hits itself. It goes bulk up instead. That's perfectly fine. I'm going to Howl, and we get karate chopped and taken all the way down to 1 HP. And if this opponent doesn't stay confused, we get wrecked. So we're gonna have to get better luck than that. We like when it hits itself in confusion, especially multiple turns in a row. Now I'm going for flinch strats. We get him to use a super potion here, but then when he does hit, we simply go down. This is actually a case where Intimidate kind of works against us because we want him to have a higher attack stat when he hits himself. That's the way that he would actually knock himself out, rather than this situation here where he starts on -1 attack. So after 1 swagger, he's only on +1. It does allow us to survive if he hits us after 1 swagger, apparently. But if we want to get through this Pokemon, we're going to have to set up multiple swaggers here and just hope that he goes crazy hitting himself. It does appear that there's a chance that he'll just go Seismic Toss against us though, which does at least give us some possibilities of a victory. But again, this is really going to be YOLO. Still, since I know that I can survive after just 1 swagger, I'm going to try to set up a Howl after he hits himself in confusion once, just to get a little bit of an attack buff. Again, it's probably not enough for us here, but we do need him to at least hit himself once in confusion if we're going to get through this. Alternatively, it might just be better to bite here, hope he hits himself, and hope that we can get flinches on top of that. And that might be our only real play of getting through as well. Like, there's just not a lot that we can really do in this fight. It takes 23 attempts to actually get to the MkII for once here. Obviously, this Pokemon, we've got the solution. We can just sit here and bite. We force him to use another super potion here, so he's out of super potions as he goes to Makuhita. That's about the best we could hope for there. Now on the Makuhita, we have to swagger it first. We're hoping it hits itself. Now I'm going for bite, basically going for paraflinch. Makuhita hits itself in confusion, and we actually managed to win. Are you kidding me? Oh goodness. I was not expecting that victory, but we got the right range and the right luck. And the good news is that that allows us to get to level 16. We don't get to level 17 yet, though I think we'll get there on the first Wingull in the rival fight. And if we do, then we're 2 levels higher when we actually get to the Combuskin. That could help a lot. More importantly, we should be able to outspeed or at least speed tie Pokemon there now, giving us a much better chance of actually being able to get through this fight. So let's just see if the rival is doable now that we've gotten the extra levels. I still don't think this is going to be super consistent by any means, but let's find out. So first up, we are in a speed tie now with the Wingull. I'm going to go for Howl here, trying to get my attack stat up as it just goes for some water guns against me. Now Tackle is going to be a 2-hit KO, but we go down on that attempt. This is where I think the Oranberry comes in order to help us survive right here. This time we do manage to get through the first Wingull. We could level up and learn Odor Sleuth. I'm not going for that move. We're going to skip it. And that brings us to the Combuskin now. Now, against Combuskin, I outspeed at this point. I'm going to go for the Swagger, hope that it hits itself. If it doesn't, we simply lose there. We really want it to hit itself, and then we can get the chance to use Tackle or Bite to try to get the turns we need to get through. This time we get Combuskin to use Focus Energy for a turn, so we got it confused, but then it hits Double Kick, and the second it hits a Double Kick, we're obviously dead. We simply can't survive that move. It takes quite a few attempts, but we actually managed to get to the Combuskin on full health, so I'm just going to see what happens here. But if we go for the Swagger, then it's just going to one-shot us with a Double Kick. Doesn't even need the second kick to knock us out, so I'm pretty sure even without the Swagger, it just simply takes us down from full health in this fight. So at the end of the day, I think this just comes down to getting as many opportunities at the Combuskin as possible so that we can see if we can get it to hit itself. And then if we can get the flinches or just get the right ranges, we might be able to win. There doesn't seem to be really too much value to setting up on the first Wingull here. So I'm going to stop trying to do that. I'm just going to try to bite this Pokemon down. It's a simple 2-hit KO, and we're just going to maximize our opportunities at Combusken here instead. Ideally, we get it to hit itself 2 turns in a row after using 2 swaggers on it, and then we just knock it out from there. That seems to be the highest probability strategy that's available to us here. I had been hoping that I would be able to set up enough howls to maybe make this a 2-hit KO or something where like I could get a crit in one shot or something like that. It just doesn't quite seem to work out. This time the Combusken does hit itself twice, so we just bite it down, still on full health as we go to Lombre, and now we can just sit here and spam bite on this Pokemon. Sure, it's gonna, absorb and things like that, but eventually we simply take it down and we get to level 18 and get through the rival fight. But that seems to be the required way to get this to go, is that you have to have basically the Knuckle Badge from Brawly so that you can outspeed against the Combusken. Then you're hoping to use the Swagger to get it to hit itself twice in Confusion. Everything for those 2 fights is all about Swagger strats. Now, I will just briefly note, I noticed again that my overlay for some reason had added on additional badges, so they were affecting my special stats when I was up against Brawly. But yet again, that fight came down entirely to Swagger luck, not bite doing like a ton of damage. So it's on that basis that I'm just going to keep this and keep going. Again, you can yell at me. I think there's something in my overlay that keeps setting that, so I've tried to lock it in game hook so that it doesn't pop up anymore. But let's just keep an eye on that as we do the rest of these Pokemon today. Anyway, with all of that out of the way, we have now made it to Mauville, and this is the point where we might just very honestly be done with the run, and there might just not be any way to progress from here. We don't have anything good for the Magneton. We don't really have any TMs to learn other than maybe, like I said, Thief to try to cheese a little bit against that final Manectric. I think what we try to do is we try to take down the Voltorb as quickly as possible, and then when we get to the Electrike, we try to set up some of our own howls and basically just take advantage of that Pokemon's AI. I'm not sure if it's gonna actually turn out to be enough or if we'll just get completely wrecked there, but we'll have to at least test it and see. Anyway, with that, we've made it to Wattson, and we just don't really have much going for us. We can go for a Cherry Berry to try to avoid paralysis, or we can go for a Quick Claw to try to outspeed things. But either way, I just don't think we have good chances of actually getting through this fight. I'm just going to say that honestly right now. I think that we could sit here and set up as much as we want. We just don't have a solution for the Magneton other than Swagger, and we're just going to have to hope that's enough. Let's find out. So Wattson attempt number 1, we get to Intimidate on the first Voltorb. It goes Spark and paralyzes me, but I did have the Cherry Berry on. So I'm going to confuse this Pokemon. It goes self-destruct and it simply takes me down. We're going to have to try this again. We can actually survive a self-destruct when we don't use Swagger on it first. And now against the Electrike, I'm going to try to howl as many times as it will let me. I think I might be able to get away with up to 3 howls here. It finally shockwaves. Now I'm going to bite at this Pokemon. We can get a flinch. We could also force him to use some super potions here. Unfortunately, we do get paralyzed, but eventually we can snap out of that, but he quick attacks and takes me down. Let's try this again. Now that I know that he can't just knock me out immediately with the self-destruct though, I'm kind of going to sit here and reset hoping that he self-destructs turn 1. I don't know the exact odds, but I know that there is a possibility that he does that. And if we can get that, then we might get a chance to get through this Pokemon a little bit easier. And there's always a chance that if we use Howl on that turn, we could get the Quick Claw and outspeed and get 1 stage of attack before he knocks himself out. So that's basically my thought process. We'll see if it actually works or not, but we don't deal enough damage here that I feel like we can really just go all in on attack and get through this. So this time we get a knockout Electrike. We've actually made it to Magneton, but we don't have much HP, only 19 HP remaining. Of course, I'm going to Swagger at this Pokemon, hoping that it hits itself in Confusion. We're in a speed tie here, so I'm just going to keep swaggering it and keep hoping that it hits itself. And then when I get the chance, I'll try to bite, but it just knocks me out from 20 health with a Shockwave. Nothing that I can do there. So ultimately, this fight really just doesn't seem to work. Like, even at level 21, you know, we're basically at level 21 right now. That's the level we would reach if we dropped the rare candy. So it's not like there's any advantage to using the rare candy here. We have seen in some where I used the rare candy earlier because I knew that I was going to level up here. But ultimately, this just looks like a situation where we don't quite have enough levels to actually get through this fight. And we don't have moves to get through this fight. It could be a situation where if we had a move like, say, Dig available here to go together with a couple of Howls, we might be able to start getting through Pokemon. Or even Mud Slap combined with some Howls, we could Mud Slap and get the ranges. But I mean, they would end up going Shockwave and knock us out in that situation. So really, I think the best possibility that we could ever have here, if somebody did want to save this Pokemon and give it new moves, would be like a Hidden Power Ground with some Howls in order to try to take the opponents down, or like a Dig with the same sort of setup. I think that's the only way that you would have a real chance of getting through this fight with this Mightyena. For now though, it did a good job getting here. Might have gotten a little bit lucky on both Brawly and on the rival, but it's not enough to get through here. So even with the badges like accidentally being put on there, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. You're not getting through Wattson with this Pokemon, so this one is out of there. So obviously we're coming back with Linoone. Channel member 404 Basics is supporting it as the HMFriend, coming in with Surf, Strength, Cut, and Rock Smash. You don't even need to go into the summary screen to see this Pokemon's moveset. That being said, there is a high likelihood that I will knock off things like Cut and Rock Smash as we go through this, because Cut is kind of redundant and Rock Smash is not very strong. Since this is a member pick, I will test a bunch of strategies to see what gets me through, but the one that I think is most interesting is the fact that this Pokemon does learn the move Belly Drum via level up. So technically we could get Belly Drum on our starting moveset, and if we had that plus say Dig, we could easily get through Wattson, assuming that we could actually manage to outspeed. It might be a Quick Claw situation. We'll just have to test it and see. I'm going to try a bunch of different things. Of course, at this point in the game, having access to Strength is already pretty strong on a normal type, so we might be able to get through a lot of these randos at least just with Strength strats. I'm going to test and just see what actually works as we go through this. What I can say though is that we're not really going to be excited to go up against Brawly. He's obviously got a huge advantage. I'm pretty sure we're up against the Combuskin team here, so we're probably getting wrecked in that one too. I would hate to have a second Pokemon have to go up against an easy rival just because it can't find a way through though. And we've at least got the Surf to help us out against that Combuskin. It could be like a Swagger into Surf sort of situation. We'll just have to see. First things first though, we're just going to make our way through all of the randos, gain as many levels as we possibly can, and then we can make our way back to the actual battles that we care about, the Brawly and rival battles that I think are going to be the real tests of this Pokemon. And it may be that a standard Linoone can't actually beat Wattson, so we'll have to just go all in on some crazy strats there, but let's find out. Now, the other thing that we will have to watch out for with Linoone is the fact that it does know the pickup ability, so there is a chance that we could get some extra items or something that helps us out, like a King's Rock. And if it legitimately picks something up, then we're going to allow it because it is part of this Pokemon's design to pick up items. I'm just not allowing myself to run around with like an army of pickup Pokemon, you know, just a bunch of Zigzagoons, because that to me just feels a little bit cheap. But if this Linoone just gets lucky and like gets a bunch of rare candies or something, well, it's going to be able to just use them because that's what its ability is. So take that for what you will. What I will not be doing though is sitting here resetting for the luck to get pickup to activate. Obviously it can only activate after battle and it's a set percentage that it will activate. But because we're running minimum battles, we don't get to sit here and just take optional battles whenever we want. I feel like it's too luck based and not reasonable to just sit here and reset trying to get a particular item, especially when it's really rare. So I'm just going to go with the rule that we're not allowed to do that. But if we legitimately pick up an item after just one of our required battles, then we can use it if it brings us some sort of advantage. I already got my first pickup, but it was was just an X attack, which we're not allowed to use in battle. So unfortunately, we're going to have to skip that. Anyway, we have beaten all of the required trainers that are currently available. So we either have to go to the rival or go to Brawly. I'm going to try the rival first since we're only going to have that Combuskin. I'm pretty sure we outspeed it. So there's a chance that maybe the stab strength is actually enough with like a crit to get through here. Let's just test this and find out. So first up, we've got the Wingull. We go for strength, and it's going to be a 2-hit KO, but we do take that Pokemon down. That brings out Slugma second. Oh no, I'm up against the Grovyle team. So we're going to knock this Pokemon out nice and easy, but I'm going to come back and try this one again with the Combuskin because we get through that one nice and easy, but we did get to low health. So let's try this again when we go up against the Combuskin team because I actually want to see how we do when we go up against the tougher rival. So back again against the same Wingull. We're still just going to go strength here. It's a 2-hitter. We get confused, but we do get through that Pokemon. Out comes Combuskin. We're faster. We hit strength and we do like a third here. Let's see what Surf does instead. Surf is significantly stronger and it looks like a 2-hit KO. So it's possible that if we get a focus energy, we can actually get through this. Let's try this again. It looks like it might be a 2-hit KO range here though, because we didn't get quite as much damage, I don't think that time. And that could affect things quite a bit. We'll probably need a crit on the second Pokemon one way or the other in order to get through. Still, there's honestly just nothing better than having access to Surf here for that Combuskin. I don't think there's another move that would get us through unless we had Belly Drum, which could turn out to be the play to get through these fights. Just because while yes, we would sacrifice a lot of health, if we can outspeed, the health doesn't matter. And this time we crit the Combuskin and just one-shot it. That gets us to level 16 right here. As the Lombre comes out, we'll just go back to strength. It goes nature power. That doesn't even matter. So we can ultimately win there, even against the rival, getting to level 17. I'm going to go take on everything else before I even think about Brawly, just because I don't expect him to be an easy fight. So I think we'll need all the XP we can get, but there is a reasonable chance that we end up coming back to Brawly to try to take him down on the basis that we can't get through Wattson and we need the extra levels. So we're just going to have to test this and see. Now, it is also worth noting that we do learn things like Fury Cutter. We learn things like Rollout, if I recall correctly. Yes, and we can learn Ice Beam if we really want it as a strategy. So there are a lot of YOLO strats available to this Pokemon, but like I said, if I added on another move, I think it would be Belly Drum. I think that would be the solution to basically everything. We seem to be doing a lot of damage with the stab strength here though, so it might turn out that strength is enough to get us through some of these tough fights. We're just gonna have to see. Anyway, I'm going to try one shot at Wattson just to see what he looks like with this Pokemon. I don't necessarily expect to win this fight, but you know, we'll just see how it kind of goes here. We are currently fast enough to outspeed a lot of Pokemon on this team outside of the Manectric. We could go for like a Silk Scarf here in order to deal more damage with our normal type moves, and then we might just have to YOLO against the Magneton. We could go for the Cherry Berry to recover from paralysis. That could be the strategy. I think there's a lot of strategies here that we can try. I'm just not sure that any of them will actually work. So let's get into this and see. So Wattson attempt number 1 right here. I'm going to lead off with strength on the first Voltorb. This is a 2-hit KO. We get paralyzed, but we can knock it out the next turn. That will bring out the Electrike. We go for the strength and crit in one shot, but we get paralyzed again. Nothing we can do about that. I think Surf is stronger against the Magneton, most likely, though I will try the Rock Smash. We just didn't get the luck to hit anything after that one Surf. Let's try this again. So back to the Magneton this time. Let's see what Rock Smash does. It does basically nothing, though we do get a defense drop, which is kind of nice. Still, I don't think it's going to be enough to just get like 1 or 2 defense drops here. We're taking way too much damage, and ultimately we go down. Now, with that being said, I'm going to replace the move Cut with Belly Drum, and let's see what that does to the ranges here. Number 1, because Cut is completely redundant with strength. There's no reason you would want those 2 moves on the same Pokemon. And number 2, Belly Drum could prove to be OP if we're basically outspeeding everything. So let's just test this and see. So here I'm going Belly Drum right off the bat. That gets us to +6 attack immediately. Now strength will one-shot that first Voltorb. Strength will absolutely one-shot the Electrike. Magneton comes out. Let's go for the Rock Smash. We still don't do that much, and we get wrecked. I'm going to try again with the Strength, because Stab Strength is obviously stronger than Rock Smash there. Maybe that gives us the victory. So here we get back to the Magneton. We go Stab Strength, doing over half. Maybe we just need something like a Quick Claw here, or something to get through the final Manectric, and just some luck there to survive against that Magneton. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go down to Brawly with this setup. Brawly is going to have to respect the Belly Drum. I mean, he obviously sits there and tries to bulk up all the time. So seeing somebody go for the Belly Drum in order to get super strong, like, he's got to respect that, even from a normal type Pokemon. And then I bet Strength can just sweep through his team. I will note that originally 404 Basics told me that I could choose one move that wasn't an HM move, which is why I'm going for this specific strategy here. But I also think this is actually the best way to do a Linoone. Like, you really do want Belly Drum on basically any Pokemon that can learn it. As long as you can find a way to survive to set it up and you're fast, you can sweep with this move so easily. So let's just see how it goes here on good old Brawly. So Brawly attempt number 1, I'm going straight for Belly Drum here. We're hoping he goes Bulk Up. He does. Now we can go Strength and just destroy the Machop. Out comes the Meditite. We go Strength and destroy it. And out comes the Makuhita. Strength. Easy victory. We completely destroy Brawly when we come in with Belly Drum. I'm not sure that we get through that fight without the Belly Drum. I'm being perfectly honest. There is a very good likelihood that we take too much damage and take at least 2 or 3 hits to take down each of those Pokemon. But here we get the advantage that we need to actually get through. So with that, we'll go back to Mauville. We'll be able to level up just after the first Voltorb. I'm not sure if we'll be fast enough to match the Manectric, but at least we'll have some chances here. So we'll just have to see how this actually goes. It could be that going for the Oranberry or something is the best play in order to be a little bit more survivable here, especially after we're losing half of our health to Belly Drum, but we'll just have to see. Maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't, but I think this is our best try to get through this gym. So let's just see if we can get the victory or not. So the first thing I actually kind of want to see is, can we just knock out this first Voltorb? Or is it a situation where we actually need the Belly Drum here? We can see that we did pretty decent damage and we just managed to 2-shot. We would take a hit there anyway. So here I think we Belly Drum against Electrike. Unfortunately, it's going to knock us out at that point because we're on 2 low health. We wanted it to howl and it didn't howl. So we're really hoping for a howl here. We get a Leer instead. It's probably not the best, but hey, we'll take it. Magneton comes out. We go Rock Smash here, lowering its defense, but we just simply can't survive there. Let's try a different strategy. Let's try having an Oranberry and just see if the extra little bit of healing can somehow get us through. So this time when we get to Magneton, unfortunately, we already had to use our Cherry Berry against the first Voltorb. We survived the Shockwave, but we're on such low health, we're just going to get a quick attack from the final Manectric, and that's going to take us down. We would really like to get to the Magneton with the Cherry Berry still on, so it can go Thunder Wave against me. I can heal and knock it out the next turn. That's the game plan. So I think what we actually need to do is get the critical hit on the first Pokemon, and then just hope that the second Electrike doesn't go for a damage dealing move against us. If we can get that, then we might be able to set up the Belly Drum on the second Pokemon. Voltorb will always damage us is the thing. It always uses damage dealing moves, whereas Electrike has the chance to not use damage dealing moves. So that's where this crit might come into play. We're just going to have to see if we can get it like that. There we go. Now we just got to hope Electrike does something stupid like Howl. Perfect. Now we can just knock that Pokemon out. We're on half health. As we get to the Magneton, it goes Thunder Wave. We still managed to knock that Pokemon out, and I've got a Quick Claw on. If the Quick Claw activates here, I think we win against Manectric. It howls, and we just managed to move even though we're paralyzed and get the victory that way. So at the end of the day, we're actually able to beat Wattson with this setup. Belly Drum is the key, I think, for getting that to go. Anything less than Belly Drum, we don't really have a good setup against that Magneton, but you can also come into this fight, get a critical hit on the Voltorb, which we actually outspeed, given that we're on max IVs here, and we were at a higher level than that Voltorb at that time. It works out, and then you can outspeed the next two Pokemon. Electrike is the safe place to set up, and then you can basically two-hit or one-hit everything from there. So nice. 404 basics. Let me just give you a massive thank you for going on already 6 months of being a channel member and supporting this Linoone. HMFriend has gotten through Wattson and is ready to move on to the next section. And I'm just telling you, belly drum strats with this Pokemon might be OP. Like, we might be able to get pretty deep into this challenge with that setup. That being said, when we get to Tate and Liza, I don't know, all bets are off. But I think we can get to Tate and Liza with this sort of setup. And if we get through Tate and Liza, we could go really far because belly drum is that broken, especially on a Pokemon that's actually fast. Like, you're used to using it in Gen 2, for example, with a Snorlax, which is slow, and then you end up having to hope that you have the bulk to survive and use rest, etc. But Linoone is fast and has stab normal moves, and that could make it completely dangerous. We'll just have to see as we go through this. Anyway, massive thank you for your support. You are moving on. But with that done, we're now in the position of what might turn out to be the last Pokemon of this episode, because if this one doesn't get through, we're obviously not doing the unevolved forms, Lombre and Lotad. It is time for the Ludicolo, coming in with Absorb, Growl, Astonish, and Nature Power. We learn no level up moves, which is the only argument that you could really make for at least looking at Lombre. But on top of that, we're not going to get a ton of moves. We can get access to Ice Beam. We have Bullet Seed in the bag, so technically those two could be upgrades. And then there's Rock Smash. We've already seen Rock Smash, even on a physical attacker, doesn't do that much. So it's not really a move where we're like, oh yeah, let's go learn that. So we're just going to have to test and see here if anything can get this Pokemon through. We might be dead on the rival. We might not actually be able to stand up against Brawly. I'm honestly not sure. And Wattson, he's got neutral damage on us. So it's not like we're in a situation where, you know, the grass type can help us really at all there because we're a grass water type. So we're just going to have to see how this goes. I'm going to gain all the levels before I even think about going to any of the bosses, because I think that is the best play. So let's see how this goes. The other thing I don't know is how Nature Power works when it's indoors, like what move it turns into. Obviously there in the cave, it was turning into Shadow Ball, but it depends on the location, right? So we'll just have to see what it becomes when we get indoors. It might be that it just turns into Swift or something, but we'll just have to see. So here I have managed to get through all of the randos. I'm going to go try the rival one time just because I want to see, number one, which rival I programmed in here. I'm pretty sure it's the Trico rival that we're up against, but let's just see how we actually stand up in this fight. So we get the Wingull out first. Of course, it has super effective moves against us. So I'm going Nature Power, and it looks like we can get a 2-hit KO here, but Wing Attack does massive damage, so we get wrecked. Let's try this one again. If we start hitting ourselves in confusion, we are getting destroyed by that Pokemon. We managed to get through on the second attempt, getting the level 18. Out comes Slugma. We don't really have anything good here other than Nature Power. We get Yawn from this Pokemon, and it's a 3-hit KO, and then we get Smog. We managed to heal with an Oran Berry and wake up and knock that Pokemon out though, so out comes the Grovyle. I went up against this Pokemon because it knows Fury Cutter, which is super effective against me, and all of my stab is resisted. It goes for Quick Attack instead though, and we get a critical hit, and we actually managed to win on the first attempt against May. I did not expect that, but hey, okay. May, good job. Gave us the super easy victory. I just don't think that any of the other rivals are going to be much harder for us. We're neutral to everything from Combuskin other than Peck, which isn't super strong. I thought we wouldn't be able to do enough damage to Grovyle. Turns out we can get through that just fine. So, hey, we'll take it. Our much bigger issue is going to be the steel types, though, especially that Magneton coming up. I'm not sure if we can even get get through that Pokemon. We'll test it and see, but I'm again just going to fight all of these available randos and Wally before I go down, trying my hand at Brawly before Wattson. I think we want the extra XP just because we don't really have anything good. So here we are, Brawly time. Let's see if we can manage to get the victory here or not. There's a chance that we could go Bullet Seed if we really need to as an upgrade on Absorb, but I think I'll go into this initially with just an Oranberry and just see if I can get the luck to get through or not. So first things first, we've got the Machop out. I'm going to go Nature Power and just see how much it does. It does about half. We get a bulk up from this Pokemon, but now I think we can just sit here and absorb and basically get through it. We can obviously absorb a bunch of times on Meditite. People pointed out that I should have been doing that with Sceptile as well. This is just free eats, free HP, so it just makes too much sense to just go for it and knock that Pokemon out. That brings out the Makuhita. I'm going to growl at it a couple times to reduce its attack power. It's going bulk up a bunch of times, but I don't think that ultimately will matter too much. And now we can go for our absorbs here, just trying to reduce its damage. And eventually it looks like we can take it down. So we do get through. We get to level 23 right there on Brawly. We can get up to level 24 as a medium slow level up Pokemon with the rare candy that's available. The question is just, will we be able to get the job done? This is where I'm getting nervous because while we're only neutrally affected by electric type moves, we don't have anything good. We could come over here and learn Swagger. We could learn Ice Beam as a strategy in order to progress. I don't think Rock Smash will ever be strong enough to actually help us through, but you know, there are some strategies that we got to test, so let's test them and see. And obviously, if Ludicolo does fail, well then we're just going to have to fail the rest of the evolutionary line, but it depends on what kind of damage we're actually taking here, so let's just see how it goes. We've got decent chances. We're reasonably fast. We'll outspeed 2 of the Pokemon on the team at least. I don't think one more level would allow us to outspeed the Voltorb, so we're probably just stuck with this. I'm going to give a Cherry Berry here for the first attempt just to see if it helps us. Let's go. So here we are, Wattson attempt number 1. He goes Shockwave. It doesn't do that much to me. Then Spark. I'm just going to go Absorb here and then go for the Nature Power to knock out that Voltorb. That's perfectly fine. Electrike. I'm going to try Absorb to get some HP back first. It goes Shockwave, which isn't really a big deal. So I'm just taking any opportunity to get HP back as he goes for the Super Potion. And ultimately, we can take that Pokemon down. This is the problem right here. The Magneton. We don't have anything for this Pokemon. So like Absorb obviously does nothing. Astonish could flinch, but otherwise does nothing. Hidden Power, Nature Power does basically nothing. And then we start getting Sonic Boomed. So we lose. So the first move that I'm going to try instead here is Swagger. We already saw we could get through the Voltorb pretty reasonably. The Electrike didn't look too bad. Maybe we just need to Swagger like crazy on that Magneton, and that is the strategy to get us through. Let's test this and see. So here we get back to the Magneton. I'm going Swagger immediately. We're hoping that it hits itself in Confusion. Unfortunately, we get a couple turns where we can't move, but it is hitting itself quite a bit. So we're getting pretty decent luck on this one. He finally snaps out of Confusion. I'm going to go Absorb right there and then back to Swagger. Unfortunately, we're fully paralyzed, so we get wrecked. Let's try this again. A couple attempts later, we make it back to the Magneton on full health even because we were able to heal enough before this. It hits a Thunder Wave on me, but I am setting up Swagger. It Thunder Waves again, and now it confuses me, and I hit myself in Confusion instead of it hitting itself. So kind of terrible there. Still, we've set up everything at this point. We just have to use the Absorb and hope that we can survive and that it hits itself in Confusion a bunch of times, and it refuses to hit itself even once, so we lose. But sure enough, after a lot of attempts there, I cannot get through that Magneton. I can't get it to hit itself enough times in Confusion, and typically I get paralyzed and then I just end up not being able to get through. So I'm going to go for the YOLO strats that I have available here. The first being to use the move Bullet Seed. While it's not going to be strong against that Magneton, it is going to hit up to 5 times. I'm still going to keep Absorb on the moveset, but I'm going to forget Astonish. I don't think I need this move. It's not super strong by any means, but even more importantly, Bullet Seed can hit up to 5 times, making it significantly stronger than Absorb, and we could get random crits in there, etc. against the Magneton and do more damage than we're doing with any of our moves right now. So I'm going to test this and see if between that and the Swagger I can get this to go. But sure enough, that doesn't seem to do enough. So I think our next play is to go for the Ice Beam strat. So our next YOLO strat is to go for the Ice Beam, giving us a stronger special move. Even though I don't expect it to be super great, it is stronger than anything else on our moveset at this point. So I think this is likely the best play that we have. It might be that we can go Nature Power into Ice Beam and just knock out the Voltorb. Then against the Electrike, we can sit here and just spam the Ice Beam. If he goes Super Potion there, it's not really a big deal because we can just two-shot this Pokemon anyway. But now when we get to the Magneton, we can try to freeze it, and we should get plenty of turns to try to get the freeze. Since it is going to go Thunder Wave against us, that just gives us a chance here. We may still want to Swagger it once, but that might be the best play that we've got there. At the very least, we're getting a lot more damage output on the first 2 Pokemon, making it so that we can get through with more HP on average. I typically try to go for like 2 Absorbs on the Electrike so that I can get a little HP back as we go to the Magneton. And now let's just Swagger it once so that hopefully it hits itself. Hope the Cherry Berry heals us when it does land the Thunder Wave, and then hope that maybe we can get a freeze here. This time we do get him to at least use the Super Potion on the Magneton. It finally snaps out of confusion, but we're going to try to Swagger it again. Unfortunately, we're not able to move for most of the turns here. On such low health, we probably don't get through this, especially because he's using a second Super Potion. So we're going to lose that attempt, but that is a way that we could theoretically get through this fight. One thing that we can definitely say for sure though on the Magneton is that we're doing a lot more damage with the Ice Beam than we were doing with our normal moves. It is just a significant upgrade in terms of damage output. This time we do manage to freeze the Magneton. I'm going to Swagger on it twice when it is frozen, just to get the maximum stages of attack on it, but it defrosted really quickly and simply knocked me out. Here we've yet again frozen the Magneton, and I'm just taking the opportunity to heal a little bit because it will likely go for the Sonic Boom if it thaws out. Let's see if we can knock this Pokemon out. It goes for Thunder Wave, and we just missed the range to KO it, so we're not gonna get through, I don't think. We've only got 13 HP. When we get to Manectric, it goes Shockwave and simply ends me. That's our first time ever seeing Manectric. We just needed better luck with Confusion than that in order to actually get through. This time we actually get to the Manectric on full health, though we are paralyzed. So this is our best shot ever at getting through this fight. We take a Shockwave right there. I'm going Ice Beam to have the best chance of dealing damage here. Maybe a crit from this range could end it. We do not get the crit, and we're down to 1 HP, and we simply go down. Like, you could argue for going for the Swagger there, but that Pokemon does know Quick Attack and is very likely to use it if we raise its attack stats, so I'm not sure we would have survived. That's as close as we've gotten in all the time that I've been sitting here grinding, though. A freeze there might have gotten us the victory. We just couldn't quite get the luck to get it to go. We are getting the advantage that we typically can get a couple turns of healing back on the Electrike, and then we can knock it out as we get to the Magneton. But again, we need crazy luck with this Magneton hitting itself in confusion or getting frozen in order to actually get through this. And most of the time, we don't even have much HP there. That was kind of god tier luck to get through that Pokemon still with full health, because it just never managed to land a damage dealing move on me. Here when the Magneton is frozen, I am trying to heal off of this Pokemon if I can until I get it into a range where I can possibly knock it out. We've made it back to the Manectric, and yet again, I think the only way we actually get through here is if we freeze. So it goes Howl, we can't move for a turn, Quick Attack does a lot of damage, and then it Quick Attacks again, and we just did not get the lock. So I've gotten a few close calls there. Ultimately, it just hasn't really gone for me, and I think we can basically call it here. I'm going to try one last thing, which is to slam on the Rare Candy, just because then we would be a level higher on the final Manectric, and maybe, just maybe, the extra damage could do something, since level 25 is a damage rounding threshold level. Basically, any level that ends in 0, 3, 5, or 8, you're going to do a little bit more damage based on how Pokemon rounds off damage. So maybe getting to the higher level there will help us. So let's test it and see. Maybe it affects the ranges just a little. This time we get to Manectric on high health and we're not paralyzed. So we might actually have a really legit chance here. I'm going to swagger it, and now I'm going to go for the Ice Beam here. We force the Citrus Berry. It snaps out of confusion, unfortunately. Now we Super Potions. We need a bit of luck here, I think, because the Quick Attack did massive damage. He survives on 2 HP. He Super Potions again. We freeze the Manectric, and it stays frozen. Oh, that was just barely enough to get us through. But we did ultimately manage to get through Wattson with Ludicolo. That required all the freeze luck. That required all the swagger luck. That required everything. It was not pretty, and I'm not sure that Lombre has any chance of repeating this. Like, yes, we did really well against the rival here, but we're fairly fast with this Pokemon as a fully evolved form. I am not sure that we're going to be fast enough to really do anything when we come back with Lombre. Still, we've gotten through with Ludicolo, so we do have to try Lombre in this one, so let's get into it. So here we are, Lombre time, coming with the same moveset that we just had with our evolved form. I think we do the same thing, take on all the randos, go and try to take on maybe the rival first and then go to Brawly. We'll just have to see. But I'm pretty sure that this Pokemon is dead on Wattson. I just see no way that this Pokemon actually manages to get through at that point. Like, how are we going to get through there? Obviously, Ice Strats, but I seriously question if that is going to be enough to actually get us through. Still, I'm just going to play to that point as quick as I can, so let's see how this goes. I will just note, though, I'm very likely to give up on Wattson faster with this Pokemon on the basis that if Ludicolo needed that much luck and it took me that long to get through with that Pokemon, Lombre won't be impossible, is my guess, but it will be unreasonable. Like, Ludicolo, I was already ready to call it, and then I got the run where I got that Manectric down to like just a couple HP and lost. That was the only reason I kept sitting there and resetting after all the resets that I had on that fight, was because I could see some semblance of a chance, but it only exists if you get that Magneton to hit itself in confusion a bunch of times, and I'm not sure we're going to be fast enough to even match up against that Magneton at that point. Like, Ludicolo was outspeeding there. I think this Pokemon's likely going to end up being slower there, and that will make all the difference. Like, that one extra turn where they get to take action against you before you get an action against them, that means we're getting Thunder Waved, we're getting hit by a Shockwave, whatever, and that can ruin the entire strategy. We're not going to be faster than Voltorb in this one, I can just guarantee. So because of that, it might just turn out to be impossible. Like, Ludicolo only had to take one hit from that first Voltorb, and it could tank a self-destruct pretty well there. So yeah, I'm not confident going into this. Still, we won't know till we see, so we've got to test it. That's the entire point of this series. But man, oh man, this has been a long episode, at least for me, sitting here recording. So many of these Pokemon are like so borderline or close, or like you could get it with the luck. I may be a little more judicious about how many resets I take in the future, but I mean, Ludicolo proves that some Pokemon, when they're dealing at least decent damage there, you have to give them a chance. So honestly, I don't know. There's always going to have to be a cutoff somewhere because, you know, I have, you know, a family and I have things to do outside of just playing Pokemon all day. But, you know, there is a redo episode at the end of the section for this very specific purpose so that we can come back and spend a little more time on Pokemon that were really questionable, not getting the job done. In fact, there's an argument for saying that we only save the rare candies and the swagger strats for redos, but I think that would end up with the wrap-up episode having way too many Pokemon. That's the only reason that I'm not doing that. Still, given everything that we know, I will definitely throw on swagger right away on this Pokemon. Lombre is going to need it if Ludicolo needed it, so we will go ahead and forget Growl for now in order to learn this move, and then later we will learn the Ice Beam immediately. And just note that Ludicolo is in the OPTMs category, you know, aka struggle category, it goes in with Pokemon that use struggle. And the reason is because getting a game corner TM at this point in the game would be such a grind. It's completely unreasonable, but it still is going to fall in that category and add like half a point to the grass and water types when we do our rankings at the end of this section. Kind of ridiculous. So here I'm going to try to do like my evolved form and go straight to the rival here just to see if we can get it to go. I'm not sure if it will work or not, but let's test it and see. So May attempt number 1, we're going for the nature power. We're slower than the Wingull, and we see the wing attack just does massive damage here. We are nowhere near as fast or bulky as our evolved form was. We would need 5 more points in speed to match this Wingull, which makes me think that this fight is basically impossible at this point, short of swagger strats. So let's go for that and just see if it gets me through or not. It's probably not going to be great, but we're just going to have to test it and try. Of course, we get wrecked here. So I think we're going to have to give up and go to Brawly and just hope that we can get the ranges there with these swaggers. But at least in that fight, we should be a little bit more survivable. We don't have any type weaknesses. The big issue is that we need a lot more speed to actually match up there against the rival. And remember, the extra rare candy isn't available until after we get through the rival. So we can't go for that. And we can't go for Ice Beam until we get through the rival either. We would love to have that move as an upgrade. Anyway, let's just try our hand at Brawly and see how this goes. So Brawly attempt number 1, I'm going straight for swagger on the first Machop, hoping it hits itself. It does. My nature power does basically nothing, but we do ultimately take that Pokemon down. I'm now going to just sit here and spam with the Absorb on this Meditite, just getting my HP back. Hopefully he Super Potions here. Sure enough, he does. That's just going to let me get all of my HP back, which is perfect. And now he has no Super Potions for the final Makuhita, so we should have some reasonable chances there. Out comes the final Makuhita. We miss Swagger. It hits Vital Throw on me. I Swagger it now, but if it hits another Vital Throw, I'm dead, so we simply lose. Still, Makuhita could just hit itself enough times, I think, that we get a chance, but we're gonna need a lot of luck on this because we're not as fast, not as bulky, not dealing as much damage with our attacking moves. Everything is kind of stacked up against us here. So once again, we're back to the Makuhita. We swagger it immediately. It hits itself once. We like that. We'll swagger it again. Now it snaps out of confusion and just one-shots me though. So nothing that we can do there. I think that's the only strategy that gets us through Makuhita is for it to hit itself in confusion. But here I've been resetting against Brawly for a hot minute, and I've never come close to taking down the Makuhita. And when you add on the fact that we're not gaining that many levels, we're still going to be slower than the Wingull when we get there. I think this one might just be done. We might just not have enough to actually get through here with this Lombre. Obviously, the math would be very different if this were a member pick Pokemon, since in that case, we could be sitting here using different moves to get through. But at the end of the day, this is tough. And usually the issue is that when we set up Swagger in order to try to get the KOs on the Makuhita, like having an Oranberry or anything on wouldn't really change anything because we would still just get one shot from full health by the Makuhita. So it's really all or nothing YOLO when we're going for Swagger here. We need this Pokemon to just hit itself repeatedly, and when it doesn't, we get completely wrecked. And it's not really a case where the Quick Claw does anything for us. Like, there's just no held item that we could throw on right here. It's really going to affect the ranges that much because it's not about our damage output. It's about the opponents hitting themselves in confusion. This time we finally get Makuhita to hit itself in confusion a bunch of times. So we finally managed to get through after 30 attempts on Brawly. That was not great. Now we get a level up. We could learn Fake Out. It is stronger than Astonish, so I guess I'll go ahead and learn it. Maybe it will allow me to get the victory. I'm honestly not sure. We've got to go back to the rival at this point. Our next level up move would be Fury Swipes at level 25, which isn't going to help us at all when it comes to the gym. So we're just going to have to see how we do in this next section. Obviously, if we can get through the rival, we're going to learn Ice Beam and use that as our strategy to try to get through against good old Wattson, but this likely won't work. We'll just have to test it and see. For now, back to the rival. Let's see how she goes. Of course, even after gaining levels, we're still going to be slower than this Wingull. I'm going to try Fake Out here just to see what kind of damage we get off of it. It looks like a 3-hit KO, but maybe with the flinches we can make it work. Here we definitely are a little bit more survivable against the first Wingull at least. So we're going to need a little bit better luck if we're actually going to get through this Pokemon. I've been sitting here trying for a little bit, and I have yet to actually get past this Pokemon. This time we do finally get it to hit itself in confusion off a Swagger though, so that does allow us to get the victory there. Now we got to see what we can do against Slugma. Its Ember is doing pretty reasonable damage to us. We're all the way down to 1 HP. It finally hits itself, so we get to the Grovyle, only to be slower here, so we simply get wrecked. I'm not sure that this fight is possible. At the very least, I think we need a Quick Claw to get this to go, so we're just going to give that right now. We're hoping to Swagger the Wingull by getting a Quick Claw activation and get it to hit itself in confusion and get through with more HP. Let's try. Then when we get to Slugma, we're going to have to do the same, go for Swagger and hope it hits itself. It goes for Yawn, which is like the worst case for me. It does knock itself out, so we make it to the Grovyle actually, but unfortunately we're asleep, so we can't do anything as it's just slowly whittling us down. We do manage to wake up and hit a Swagger on it, but it just quick attacks and knocks me out the next turn. And here Yawn puts us to sleep just as we get to Grovyle, so we never even have a chance there. That Slugma coming out second is kind of trolly here, and there's not a whole lot we can do about it. This time we at least get to the Slugma on full health, so we can Swagger it. It hits itself in confusion once. We go Nature Power. It goes Rock Throw, so we're actually going to get through that Pokemon with no status for once. That's nice. We can now Swagger the Grovyle turn 1 with the Quick Claw activation. It hits itself in confusion. I'm going Swift right here. It quick attacks, but I get Swift, so I finally managed to get through and get to level 20 on the rival. It required beating Brawly. It was not pretty, but we ultimately get the job done, so we'll take it. We're moving on. Now we just need to go up and get access to Ice Beam after fighting a couple of randos, and then we should have some chances at least. So we'll just have to kind of see how it works out here. So here I'm actually going to try for getting Absorb in order to learn the Ice Beam. This could be a mistake because I obviously can't heal anymore, but I don't think we're going to outspeed anything. So the entire point was that Ludicolo was outspeeding and then using those free turns to heal itself. I just don't think we get any such luck here with this Pokemon. Still, Ice Beam gives us a chance at least in theory, so we'll just have to see if it works out or not. So here as we make it to Wattson, we already know that we should drop a rare candy because that's what we did with our evolved form. Obviously, if Ludicolo wasn't getting through at level 23, we're not getting through at level 23 with this Pokemon. So let's get to level 24 and see if that does anything for us here. Probably not, but we're going to go as close as we can to the strategy we had with our evolved form. The main difference is we have Fake Out on the moveset so that we can hit the Voltorb once first. Just because I don't expect to have great ranges, I'm going to go Quick Claw instead of Cherry Berry here. Let's see how this works out. So here against Wattson, I'm going to go Fake Out once on the first Voltorb. Then we manage to Swagger it, which is kind of nice. It hits itself in confusion. Now it snaps out of confusion and hits the Shockwave, but we do knock that Pokemon out. Out will come this Electrike. It's going to be a simple 2-hit KO. We actually are able to outspeed that Pokemon, fortunately. But now we've made it to Magneton, which is faster than me. It hits Sonic Boom. I go for the Swagger, and we would need crazy luck on this Pokemon to get through. Ludicolo outsped, we don't outspeed, so we're kind of in a bad situation. Here we can see that Ice Beam does basically nothing, and we easily get knocked out by the Magneton. I'm going to call it right there. With how much luck it took for Ludicolo, plus the fact that Lombre is slower than everything other than Electrike here, I think we just have to give this one up. It's not technically impossible with all the right Quick Claw luck, freeze luck, etc., but I don't think that it's going to go in the end. So for that, we're just going to end right here. We're also going to fail the Lotad right here, of course, and that will bring us to the end of another episode. So let's go back, check on our results, see what's coming next time, and wrap this one up. So here with another episode done, we end our results with 8 standard Pokemon getting through, 7 member picks getting through, but for the first time, one of our member picks fell down into that fail column. And if you're looking at legit challengers, we are 2-to-1 fails versus passes so far through the 3rd episode. We're going to be coming back next time with 8 Pokemon. It's not going to be as long of a slate. This episode today with these 10 took me way longer than I expected to. Many Pokemon I was sitting here grinding for over an hour, hour and a half, trying to get through with them. The fact that we have 3 boss battles in this section really does make these sections really hard to run. So it is a situation where I do need to pare down a little bit on Pokemon just so that I can keep videos coming out at a good pace. You got to keep in mind that for me as a creator, one of the big things is keeping myself motivated to make videos. And when I have a video that I'm dreading because I know it's going to just take me the entire day and then some, I feel like I just have to balance the load so that I can get it done within the time limits that I have. I can do some daddy time at night, you know, all that stuff. Still, with that being said, we will eventually get through all of these Pokemon, so don't you worry. I'm just trying to keep the pace up so that we keep these videos coming. Anyway, next time we will be coming with 8 new challengers, some of which I think are going to be really easy to get through. We're going to have the Sandslash, Nidoking, and Nidoqueen, which I think are just going to crush this section. Then we're getting Togepi, which is legitimately still in the action with its metronome strats. And we've got its evolved form Togetic, which is a member pick. And then we're going to get the entire C-Dot line. This is a little bit more manageable for me because if for some reason Shiftry doesn't get through, we can just get rid of Nuzleaf and C-Dot. Togepi, I think, is getting wrecked. I don't think it gets through, but maybe with like amazing metronome luck, it could get the job done. We'll see how much I can stomach resetting for that next time. And then Togetic, of course, as a member pick, will get all of the advantages. We'll just have to see how that goes. Now, one last thing before I leave on this episode, I just want to give a massive thank you to all the channel members, to everybody who follows and supports here on RSC Pokemon Challenges. RSC Pokemon Challenges already outperforms both GSC Pokemon Challenges and RBY Pokemon Challenges in terms of people joining the Patreon and the memberships. But it's always a massive pleasure to get to 1,000 subs on a channel as well. Now that does unlock ad revenue sharing for me as a creator with YouTube. YouTube's probably been putting ads in my videos up to this point, but I haven't seen a dime of that until now. That being said, I also understand how much people hate YouTube ads. I personally hate YouTube ads too. There's a reason why I'm signed up to YouTube Premium. That's the way I get away with it. So for me, it is really jarring when there are tons of ads in a video. That's why channel members always get ad-free videos, and the same for the Patreon members. I post the same videos here that I post for you guys publicly, but I post an ad-free version for the members. Now that we're monetized with ad revenue, I will be going back through the entire catalog. That's like 37 episodes of Roxanne plus these 3 episodes here. So I got like 40 videos to work on, but we will get all of them posted ad-free for the channel members. They're already posted ad-free for everybody who's over on Patreon. It's a massive, massive amount of support for people to support me through those sorts of platforms. And I just have to say, like I've mentioned this before on my other channels, but if I ever reach the point where I can support myself and my family without needing YouTube ads on any of my videos, I will just go ad-free on all of my videos. Like, I wouldn't have ads there if I didn't need to have ads there. I know how annoying they are, and I know that it's taking your time, so I appreciate you guys who do, you know, deal with it in order to enjoy the content. But now there is yet another reason, if you're just kind of on the fence thinking about joining a channel membership, to pull the trigger, save a Pokemon, but also get access to ad-free content. But if you are perfectly fine with ads and don't mind, or, you know, you have other ways around it, that's perfectly fine too. Enjoy the videos. I will be posting as many as I possibly can within my time constraints, so just take that for what you will. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that. Give a massive thank you to all of you for your support. Let's keep running this up through Wattson, and right now it's looking like we're going to lose 2/3 of Pokemon in this section. So we're just going to have to see how this goes as we progress. Anyway, that does it for me. I'm rambling. I'll see you in the next one. Later.